Chapter 1169. Amidst danger, making a full recovery as soon as possible is the most urgent matter. I need to return to my peak condition in the shortest amount of time. Only then can I deal with the dangers that come later. It's a pity that Roy Jean and the other two aren't here, or even if the great elders really were scheming to take the saint's fruit, there's no need for me to fear so much. My strength is far from enough to contending with them, sadly. Jian Chen thought inside. He set up a barrier at the entrance of the cave and entered the saint artifact to heal. In the blink of an eye, 2 days passed. Everything had been peaceful in the Changyang clan during that time. The 7 great elders all stayed in the central divine hall to recover the saint force they used in the death nest. Jian Chen stayed in the artifact space for 2 days as well. He had recovered long ago with the artifact spirit's healing and was currently adjusting himself to peak condition. I can't go outside right now. If I do, it's extremely possible that they'll ask to take the fruit from me. If I don't hand it over, there'll be conflict. I still don't have the ability to hold on to the fruit with my strength. It's best if I sit here and drag it out. I hope Roy Jean and the others can make it in time. I won't have to fear the Changyang clan by then, Jian Chen planned inside. He was currently in the independent space of the Changyang clan, which could be described as the safest place possible as well as the most dangerous place possible. The place had existed for an extremely long time and possessed a wondrously powerful emperor armament. Even his divine hall and saint artifact would be useless once the emperor armament was used. The 30-meter-tall wave-breaking blade stood upright in the forbidden grounds of the Tyrant's Blade School. It hovered a meter above the ground as it glowed with a hazy light. The light consisted of no ordinary glow. They were blades of light that possessed great power. An extremely domineering presence was vaguely coiled around the blade. Gui Hai Yidai sat atop the blade's hilt in simple robes. His entire body was surrounded by the terrifying light of the blade, but it did not harm him at all. It looked like he was being protected by the blade. A powerful and pure energy constantly surged out of the blade before being absorbed by Gui Hai Yidao like a whale taking in water. His body seemed to be a bottomless pit, where no matter how much energy entered his body, it would be impossible to fill. All the energy disappeared like a rock thrown into the sea. The emperor armament of protector clans had already been established as forbidden weapons. They could not be used in ordinary times since their power were just far too great. Several saint kings working together was required just to gain rough control over one, and they would suffer from a backlash afterward, heavily injuring those saint kings. This was why the emperor armaments were terrifying. There had never been a person throughout history who cultivated by absorbing the energy of the emperor armament. Even in the glorious age of saint emperors, no one dared to do that. There was only Gui Hai Yidao. As the emperor armament's energy was rapidly consumed, Gui Hai Yidao's presence basically increased with every moment of time. The speed was astounding. His strength increased rapidly. He had no need to comprehend the mysteries of the world since recovering his memories was equivalent to recovering his former cultivation level. A few figures flew over from afar before kneeling down courteously outside the forbidden grounds. They were the great elders of the Tyrant's Blade sect, and they were all gloomy and dejected. Founding ancestor, we've returned. We were useless and unable to retrieve the saint's fruit, an old man said, depressed. He felt extremely regretful. Gui Hai Yidao slowly opened his eyes. His gaze was extremely ordinary, but within hid an extremely sharp light, like a blade. It was acute and forceful. His gazed in the direction of the death nest, as if he could see the distant place through space. That's not a problem. The saint's fruit isn't that important. It can let people reach Saint Emperor, but you still can break through without it. Gui Hai Yidao said in an extremely simple tone. But ancestor, reaching Saint Emperor has become extremely difficult. Saint Emperors have stopped appearing in the 10 protector clans. We only have one human Saint Emperor now, and he became one by paving his own path of cultivation with his willpower, a great elder bitterly replied. Gui Hai Yidao glanced over all of them. All of the great elders shivered inside when their founding ancestors gazed past by them. They all felt like that had been locked onto by an extremely sharp blade. They had actually felt dread at the bottom of their hearts. The great elders were extremely shocked as their hearts churned. They also felt even more admiration for Gui Haidao as well as more fear. They knew their founding ancestor's true strength was much greater than the realm of Saint King he had recently reached. I can let you become Saint Emperors at most in 100 years and at least a few decades. You can all wait until that day, Gui Haidao simply replied. However, the great elders felt like they had been struck by a bolt from the blue when they heard what he said. They became filled with disbelief. Founding ancestor, all of you are dismissed. In the next few years, properly consolidate your foundations. Gui Haidao cut off the great elder. Yes, ancestor. Even though the great elders were doubtful, they dared not disobey Gui Haidao's orders. They all left courteously. After they had left, Gui Haidao focused his attention on the direction of the death nest again. He mumbled, just what does Mo Tianyun want to do? He's gone to great lengths to create the death nest. I must say it's earned my admiration. After 1,000,000 years of reincarnations, my wounds from the laws have finally been erased. I've understood a lot after so many reincarnations and so many lives. I have a lot benefited, so once I fully recover my strength, I'll definitely be able to reach another level. I just wonder when the 9 of them are going to awaken. CSG now has a Patreon set up, where you can read up to 35 chapters ahead. Chapter 1170, Ill Motives. Jianshan remained in the artifact space. Right now, the Changyang clan was no longer a safe place. It was extremely dangerous, staying in it had suddenly become like a prison. He did not possess the secret technique to open the closed world gate. The Changyang clan was exceptionally quiet today. Many clansmen sealed themselves in quiet rooms to devote themselves to cultivation. The dense energy of the world quickly surged toward a few mountains peaks or a few residences. From afar, there were only a few younger people scattered about as they practiced martial arts and a few people hiding in desolate places, casting battle skills against tough rock faces. An old but upright figure suddenly emerged from the central divine hall. His presence was erased, so he seemed simple, just like any old man. He was one of the 7 great elders, Changyang Qingyun. Changyang Qingyun had appeared silently by the door. His profound eyes twinkled slightly. He first looked around before turning his attention to the mountain peak where Jian Shen had gone into seclusion. After hesitating slightly, a determined light flickered through his eyes and he moved. He flew toward the cave with extremely great speed while remaining silent. He arrived outside the cave in the blink of an eye. He calmly gazed at the barrier Jian Shen had cast down at the entrance before smiling as if he had just seen a joke. With a rapid movement of his hands, he used hand seals to cast a secret technique. He managed to pass through the barrier through a technique that looked like teleportation and entered the cave without triggering the barrier. After all, Jian Shen's comprehension of the mysteries of the world remained at the level of saint rulers. The barrier was basically non-existent before Changyang Qingyun, who was at the great perfection of Saint King and knew many secret techniques. In the slightly dim cave, the fist-sized saint artifact hovered in the air and was alit with a faint, golden light. It illuminated the cave to its dim state. Changyang Qingyun arrived before it and stood with his arms behind his back. He stared at it in interest and frowned slightly. He murmured to himself, I didn't think that little bastard would be so clever, to hide in this small tower to recover. This basically removes any possibility of me getting the saint's fruit from him. Changyang Qingyun was rather unwilling to stop there. He paced around the saint artifact as his face gradually darkened. He murmured, this tower's extremely tough. Only saint emperors can smash through it. I can't do anything to him if he hides in there, so what should I do? Jian Shen currently sat in a hall in the center of the artifact space. His expression was extremely ugly. The saint artifact had already accepted him as a master, so an extremely obscure connection had already developed between him and the saint artifact. He understood the situation outside extremely well through the help of the artifact spirit even though he was inside. Jian Shen had begun paying attention to Changyang Qingyun's every movement the moment he had entered the cave. I never thought that Changyang Qingyun would be so flustered and that he would come to find me so quickly. I just wonder how many people are preoccupied by the saint's fruit, Jianchen coldly wondered as his gaze became icy. If he had not hidden the artifact space beforehand, he probably would have fallen to Changyang Qingyun's vicious means. Changyang Qingyun paced around outside for a while before finally gritting his teeth. He coldly said, "Since that damn brat's in the tower, I might as well just take the tower away. I can slowly come up with a method to open it in the future." Just as Changyang Qingyun wanted to take the saint artifact away, his expression suddenly changed. He glanced outside before arriving near a cave wall in a flash. He silently disappeared into the rock. Soon afterward, Changyang Qingjuri arrived as well. He passed through the barrier with a secret technique just like Changyang Qingyun. He paced around the saint artifact for quite a while before his expression changed in the end. He sensed the arrival of someone, so he immediately used a secret technique to hide in the mountain. The third person was Changyang Yuanzhenghua. He knew quite a few secret techniques as well, so Jian Chen's barrier was useless against him. Seeing the floating saint artifact, he also frowned slightly. However, two powerful presences appeared outside at this moment. Changyang Zhu Yunxiao and Changyang Zhu Xiao had come at the same time, flying to where Jian Chen was resting. However, they differed from the previous three by not concealing themselves. They flew over boldly, causing many members of the clan to raise their heads as admiration filled their faces. Changyang Yuanzhenghua was surprised. He could not leave the cave in time, so with no further choice, he did the same as Changyang Qingyun and Changyang Qingjuri. He used a secret technique to fuse into the surrounding rocks and completely erased his presence. Changyang Zhu Xiao and Changyang Zhu Yunxiao arrived outside the cave together. They hovered 10 meters away from the entrance and stared into it. However, they did not set foot into it. "Looks like Xiangtian's still healing. I wonder when he'll make a full recovery," Changyang Zhu Xiao said with an ordinary tone. Xiangtian's a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master as well. He can control powerful Radiant Saint force, so although his wounds are very heavy, I believe he can heal them very quickly. "Great-grandfather, why don't you go rest in the ancestral hall first?" "I'll stay here and wait for Xiangtian to come out," said Changyang Zhu Yunxiao. Changyang Zhu Xiao hesitated slightly before nodding, "All right. Yunxiao, you stay here. I'll go back to the ancestral hall first." Changyang Zhu Xiao turned around and left while Changyang Zhu Yunxiao stayed behind. He found a flat area to sit down. The barrier that Jian Chen had cast down stood 3 meters in front of him. Jian Chen murmured in the artifact space, "Of the 7 great elders, 3 have already tried to do something to me while I was recovering, but it's fortunate that Changyang Zhu Yunxiao and Changyang Zhu Xiao arrived in time, or the saint artifact might have been taken away by the 3 of them. Now that Changyang Zhu Yunxiao is personally watching over outside, the people in the cave won't dare to do anything." Did he do this because he knew the 3 of them had already entered the cave and had come to prevent them, or is it purely a coincidence? "I still can't trust any of them," Jian Chen lowered his head in thought before moving. He had already silently vanished from the artifact space, reappearing in the dim cave. Now that he could no longer stay here, since it would be very easy for him to fall prey to the schemes of others, he might as well appear in front of them in a bold fashion. Perhaps he could stop them from acting out in the open, in hopes that they wouldn't lay their hands on him so easily. Jian Chen put the saint artifact away and made his way outside as if nothing had happened at all. He discovered Changyang Zhu Yunxiao sitting outside and a sliver of surprise immediately flashed across his face. He asked, "Great-grandfather, why are you here? Have you come looking for me because of some urgent matter?" Changyang Zhu Yunxiao stood up and examined Jian Chen up and down. He smiled, "Xiangtian, looks like you've fully recovered from your wounds. Come with me, I just happen to have some matters I want to discuss with you." Jian Chen nodded before following Changyang Zhu Yunxiao toward the floating piece of land. However, as they approached the divine hall at the center, Jian Chen stopped. He said, "Great-grandfather, the scenery in the garden over there is quite nice. Why don't we go discuss there?" With that, Jian Chen flew to the nearby garden without waiting for Changyang Zhu Yunxiao to agree. Looking at Jian Chen's back, Changyang Zhu Yunxiao did not show any displeasure at all. Instead, he smiled slightly and softly murmured, "This kid's rather cautious." Afterward, he flew over as well. Soon after that, Changyang Zhu Xiao, Changyang Yuan Wuji, and Changyang Qin Yunfeng emerged from the central divine hall as well and gathered within the garden's pavilion. "Huh, Xiangtian's done it wonderfully this time. You've actually succeeded in obtaining the saint's fruit in front of so many experts and brought it back to the clan in perfect condition." Exactly. Xiangtian's actions this time were far too outstanding, obtaining the priceless saint's fruit for our Changyang clan. Now that we have the fruit, our clan's strength will definitely skyrocket. Without much time, a saint emperor will be born in our clan. Xiangtian's committed a tremendous contribution. Wrong. It won't be one saint emperor, but two. We've all witnessed Xiangtian's talent. I believe in less than 100 years, Xiangtian will reach saint emperor. Changyang Yuan Wuji and Changyang Qin Yunfeng showered Jian Chen with praises as soon as they arrived. They constantly commended Jian Chen. Changyang Zhu Yunxiao and Changyang Zhu Xiao silently sat on the stone seats. Their faces were expressionless, so it was impossible to tell what they were feeling. Jian Chen's complexion became rather ugly. The meaning behind Changyang Yuan Wuji and Changyang Qin Yunfeng's words was that the fruit was not Jian Chen's but the clan's. "Why haven't Qin Yun, Juri, and Zhenghua come yet?" "I've just contacted them," Changyang Qin Yunfeng suddenly asked. Changyang Qin Yun, Changyang Qin Juri, and Changyang Yuan Zhenghua appeared at the doorstep of the central divine hall as soon as he said that before heading over in unison. All 7 great elders of the Changyang clan had gathered at that moment. If you managed to miss that long post of mine, CSG now has a Patreon set up, where you can read up to 35 chapters ahead. Chapter 1171, Internal Strife of the Changyang Clan, 1. The great elders all sat in order on the stone seats within the pavilion. Many of them faintly smiled with joy they could not hide. Only Jian Chen was in a very bad mood because he knew what they were going to talk about next would definitely be related to the saint's fruit. Changyang Qin Yun looked around and gently cleared his throat. He said, "Since everyone is here, let's cut to the chase. I believe everyone already knows what we are going to discuss, so let's get straight to it. How do you feel that we should split the saint's fruit? Basically all the experts on the continent know that we, the Changyang clan, have obtained the saint's fruit. In order to prevent a few experts from attacking our clan, since the temptation is too great, we need to use the fruit as soon as possible. Otherwise, won't our losses be severe if it was taken away by someone else?" Changyang Qin Yunfeng righteously spoke. "That's right, and the appearance of the fruit this time has even led to the collaboration of the Path Lord of Carnal Desires and the 3 Saint Emperors of the Beast God continent. If the 4 of them attack our clan, regardless of the consequences they would face, in an attempt to obtain the fruit, we would end up in deep trouble," said Changyang Yuan Wuji. He was grim. "But there's 7 of us and only 1 fruit. How should we split it?" Changyang Yuan Zhenghua asked while deep in thought as the light in his eyes flickered. "Who else can we give it to? Is there another Saint King at great perfection in our clan other than Qin Yun? In my opinion, the saint's fruit should obviously go to Qin Yun. Only by giving it to him can we use the fruit to its greatest capacity," Changyang Qin Yunfeng clearly stated. "Qin Yun has reached great perfection many years ago, and he only lacks a final step before he can reach Saint Emperor. Using the fruit on him is a waste," Changyang Yuan Zhenghua nonchalantly replied. Changyang Qin Yun's face changed slightly. Before he could say anything, Changyang Qin Yunfeng suddenly stood up and slammed the stone table before him. Although it was extremely tough, the sculpted table was reduced to dust. He angrily said, "Zhenghua, what are you trying to say? Are you saying that Qin Yun is incompetent?" Changyang Yuan Zhenghua smiled slightly. "Please don't get mad, Brother Yunfeng. Qin Yun is the only Saint King at great perfection out of all of us as well as the most powerful member of our clan. I just feel that if we use the fruit on him, we won't be able to use the fruit to its greatest potential. Do you have an even better idea?" Changyang Qin Yunfeng asked with a sunken face. "Of course." Changyang Yuan Zhenghua smiled confidently and said, Brother Qin Yun only lacks a fortuitous encounter before he can reach Saint Emperor. If we give the fruit to someone else and the worldly phenomena invoked by that individual when they become Saint Emperor is comprehended by Brother Qin Yun, then reaching Saint Emperor obviously won't be a question. That way, wouldn't there be 2 Saint Emperors from a single fruit? You say that easily. If reaching Saint Emperor really was that easy, the 10 protector clans would not have run out of Saint Emperors. Zhenghua, I feel like you just want the fruit for yourself, Changyang Qing Juri coldly said as he rebuked Changyang Yuan Zhenghua. The great elders argued intensely such that they all became flushed. All that was missing was for them to fight. None of them noticed Jian Chen's pale white face. Everyone. Changyang Zhu Yunxiao finally yelled. He calmly said, all you think about is how the saint's fruit will be distributed. You haven't considered just who obtained the fruit at all. The fruit isn't any of ours. It belongs to Shangtian. Correct, Shangtian's contributions in obtaining the fruit were crucial. That's an irrefutable truth. However, if we hadn't intervened in the end, how would he have broken free from the encirclement? And with Shangtian's unprecedented talent, having attained such accomplishments in less than 100 years, his future is unlimited. If he uses a heavenly resource to become a Saint Emperor with his talent, it's not necessarily a good matter either. It's extremely possible that Shangtian won't be able to advance any further after becoming a Saint Emperor through these means, said Changyang Qing Juri. Out of all of us, the person who has the most authority in distributing the fruit is Shangtian. Shangtian, why don't you say what you plan on doing? Changyang Zhu Xiao suggested. He too drooled over the saint's fruit inside. After all, it was something that could give birth to Saint Emperors. Jian Shen glanced over the 7 of them and said, Great elders, the arguments today have been so intense. Let's talk about the saint's fruit some other day just in case we fall out with one another. No, we can't leave the saint's fruit hanging around. We need to deal with it as soon as possible. I worry about intruders, a great elder firmly responded. Jian Chen's heart sank. He knew that it was no longer possible to drag things out, so he made up his mind, I'll be honest. When I obtained the fruit, I already had an owner in mind, and it's not me, nor any of you here. Is it the 3 magical beasts? No, the saint's fruit is sacred to the humans. It cannot be consumed by magical beasts, Changyang Qing Yun reacted violently. He suddenly stood up and glared at Jian Chen. No, it's not them, but the Grand Elder of Mercenary City, Senior Tianjian. I've specifically fought for the fruit for Senior Tianjian, Jian Chen replied. He no longer had any room for regret now. The garden fell silent. Everyone had become stunned by what Jian Chen had said. No one had ever thought that Jian Chen would actually leave the fruit to the Grand Elder of Mercenary City. No, definitely not. A while later, someone abruptly yelled. Changyang Qing Yun stared at Jian Chen. He was furious as he said, the saint's fruit only appears once every 40,000 years. How can you give something as valuable as that to an outsider? Jian Chen, you must consider the clan first as a member of the clan. The fruit is just far too important to the clan. When I fought against the countless vengeful spirits, what did you do? What else did you do when Roy Jin, Hong Lian, Hei Yu, and I fought through the encirclement of so many people? I've exchanged the fruit through bloodshed and risking my life, so it would belong to me. Who I decide to give the fruit to has nothing to do with you. Jian Chen also became very straightforward and forceful. He would definitely not hand over the saint's fruit. The faces of the great elders all darkened very much. Even Changyang Zhu Xiao and Changyang Zhu Yunxiao slightly frowned. They could accept it if the saint's fruit was used by any member of the clan, but if Jian Chen actually gave it to an outsider, that would be going too far. Jian Chen turned to Changyang Zhu Yunxiao and said, Great-grandfather, please send me off. It looks like it is no longer suitable for me to stay in the Protector clan. Changyang Zhu Yunxiao hesitated before nodding. Shangtian, you are a member of the Zhu branch, and you are our branch's pride. No matter what happens, we will always stand by your side as long as you don't break the morals and harm the clansmen. With that, Changyang Zhu Yunxiao began casting a secret technique. wanting to open the world gate for Jian Chen to leave. Wait! Changyang Qingyun struck out with his palm, causing the surrounding space to violently shake. He disrupted what Changyang Zhu Yunxiao was trying to do while he coldly stared at Jian Chen. He heavily said, "You can go, but you have to leave behind the saint's fruit. I don't care how much you put into obtaining the fruit, but as a member of the Protector clan, you need to consider the clan with the utmost importance. I will not be leaving behind the saint's fruit." Jian Chen's voice became icy as well. Fury began to burn inside of him. "Since you're not going to hand over the fruit, I'll come and get it myself." A sharp gleam of light flashed through Changyang Qingyun's eyes, and he arrived in front of Jian Chen in a flash. He grabbed at the space ring on Jian Chen's finger, wanting to take it. Jian Chen had been prepared long ago. The moment Changyang Qingyun moved, the Emperor armament appeared in his right hand. Devastating chaotic force surged from the weapon as he swung it toward Changyang Qingyun's hand with lightning-like speed. The strike was swift, precise, and vicious. It possessed all the power that Jian Chen had been secretly charging up. Changyang Qingyun was surprised inside. He did not expect Jian Chen to react so quickly, but he was an experienced fighter himself as well. Tremendous amounts of saint force immediately gushed from his hand, and he shifted his movement, striking the face of the sword. Bang! With a muffled sound, the Emperor armament gently resonated. Jian Chen's attack had been nullified by Changyang Qingyun. However, Jian Chen's attacks did not just stop there. With a twist of his wrist, the Emperor armament danced like a fan to redirect the remaining force before turning into a dark streak of light. It stabbed toward Changyang Qingyun with unbelievable speed. Changyang Qingyun remained calm. Extending a finger, a vast amount of world force shot out, colliding with the tip off the sword. With a boom, the pavilion in the garden was split into pieces. Violent ripples of energy shot out in all directions, turning the lovely garden into a mess. Jian Chen uncontrollably took 3 steps back, leaving behind 3 deep footprints. Changyang Qingyun remained where he was, standing as firmly as a mountain. "Your strength is indeed rather spectacular outside, but it's quite not enough to fight with me," Changyang Qingyun coldly said. Jian Chen tightly gripped the Emperor armament in his right hand. His presence became greater and greater. Although the disparity between their strength was very great, he was not scared. "Leave behind the saint's fruit and I'll let you leave," Changyang Qingyun coldly commanded. He needed to obtain the saint's fruit. At this moment, many people flew over from afar. The commotion was just far too great, having alarmed them. If you managed to miss that long post of mine, CSG now has a Patreon set up, where you can read up to 35 chapters ahead. Chapter 1172, Internal Strife of the Changyang Clan, 2. The great elders of the Yuan and Qing branches backed away in unison. They expressed their response and did not take part in the fight. At the same time, they used communication techniques to stop the clansmen hurrying over. "Qing Yun, you're an elder. Isn't it going a little too far by threatening a junior like this?" Changyang Zhu Xiao questioned in a heavy voice. He and Changyang Zhu Yunxiao remained where they were and had not moved away. "You're all senior members of the clan, so you know the rules." He was looking for it himself. Changyang Qingyun's face sank and his tone became icy as well. He had been at the great perfection of Saint King for many years now. Although he was only an inch away from Saint Emperor, he had not made any contact with the other realm of cultivation. He knew that it would be impossible for him to become a Saint Emperor in this life, so he needed to obtain the saint's fruit. "Of course we remember the rules of the clan well, but he's different than the other clansmen. He never grew up in the Protector clan, and he's only joined recently from a side branch outside. His status now is a great elder as well, so you can't treat him like any old clansman. With his outstanding talent, I believe we can make some exceptions." Changyang Zhu Xiao. Changyang Zhu Yunxiao walked over as well. He stood in front of Jian Chen and blocked Changyang Qingyun. He said, "Most importantly, Shangtian only obtained this saint's fruit with the assistance of his 3 powerful friends. We, the Changyang clan, did not contribute much at all. On the other hand, so I believe we have no right to take it away from him. No. The rulers of the clan have never been broken in countless years. It doesn't matter how shocking Shangtian's talent is, he's still a member of the Changyang clan. He needs to follow the rules. Changyang Qingyun did not give in at all as he spoke in a firm voice. Jian Chen also became angered with that. He deeply said, if that's the case, I'll leave the clan from now on. In the future, the protector Changyang clan has nothing to do with me. Changyang Qingyun suddenly glared at Jian Chen. He heavily said, the Changyang clan is one of the 10 protector clans of the continent. You can't just leave because you say you're leaving. Just with that, you've already broken the rules of the clan. I will capture you now and take you to the ancestral hall where the disciplinary elders will sentence you. With a flash, Changyang Qingyun made his way around Changyang Zhu Yunxiao. Energy surged from his right hand, materializing into a web-like net that shot toward Jian Chen. A sliver of anger also flashed through Changyang Zhu Yunxiao's eyes. At that crucial moment, he threw a punch at Changyang Qingyun. Saint force surged within the fist, causing cracks to appear in the space that was much tougher than the outside world. Changyang Qingyun remained calm and composed. He gently struck out with his left hand and easily nullified the powerful Saint force in Changyang Zhu Yunxiao's hand. The net continued to toward Jian Chen. Jian Chen's presence became extremely powerful and battle intent surged from him. His glare became as sharp as a sword. He did not show any fear against a Saint King at great perfection, quickly stabbing at Changyang Qingyun as a layer of chaotic force revolved around the Emperor armament. Such overconfidence, Changyang Qingyun's lips curled in disdain. The net of energy split into two. A portion wrapped around the Emperor armament while the other continued along the same trajectory toward Jian Chen. Jian Chen's Emperor armament seemed like it had been tightly wrapped up now. Even the luster of the chaotic force was suppressed. Jian Chen did not become flustered. With a violent tremble of his hand, the Emperor armament shook. Streaks of dark light broke free from Changyang Qingyun's suppression and became brighter and brighter. The chaotic force on the Emperor armament was rapidly breaking free from Changyang Qingyun's restraints. At this moment, the other portion of the net had arrived over Jian Chen's head. Just as he was about to become entangled, a streak of golden light shot out from the center of his eyebrows. It became a 3-meter-tall golden tower, which hovered above his head and glimmered with the color of gold. The tip of the tower held back the net. The tower was tightly trapped by the net, but the Emperor armament had finally broken free during this period of time. It glowed with a dark light as an aura of destruction radiated from it far and wide. It alerted many experts who were in seclusion, causing them to open their eyes and emerge. Swish! The sword cut through the air, and with its powerful and devastating might, it actually created a thin black crack in the reinforced space. It stabbed toward Changyang Qingyun with almost unstoppable force. The speed of the sword was so great that it became invisible to the naked eye. All that could be seen was a flicker of darkness. The sword had arrived at Changyang Qingyun's forehead with unbelievable speed. The forehead was the fatal weakness of any expert. It was where their meridian of life was located, so it was the place where their soul resided. Even Saint Kings at great perfection could suffer life-threatening injuries from the soul, and they could even die from it. Jian Chen's strike was aimed at Changyang Qingyun's forehead. He had attacked to kill without showing any mercy at all. Changyang Qingyun's face darkened. Chilling killing intent appeared in his eyes, and when the Emperor armament was only 3 inches away from his forehead, the space around Jian Chen suddenly froze. He was locked in place in his posture of stabbing out with the sword. Even the Emperor armament had come to a halt, forcefully stopped 3 inches away. However, this only lasted for a second. The frozen space was shattered by Jian Chen's chaotic force, but as soon as he regained his mobility, Changyang Qingyun had already arrived by his side. He bellowed out, "You have committed an unforgivable crime, punishable by death, for trying to kill a great elder. As the highest-ranking elder, Changyang Qingyun, shall be representing the Changyang clan to punish you." Changyang Qingyun immediately sent a palm strike in Jian Chen's way. Energy surged from his palm and his attack seemed to have engulfed an entire region, causing the space around Jian Chen to become. Jian Chen was grim. His eyes were cold and with a thought, the saint artifact immediately shrunk to the size of a fist and slipped out of the net. It flew over as a golden streak of light and stood in front of Jian Chen like a shield. A rumble immediately erupted when Changyang Qinyan's attack landed on the saint artifact. The power hidden within was far beyond imagination. He blew the saint artifact away with the attack, and the golden tower smashed into Jian Chen, even forcing him to rapidly retreat. Powerful ripples of energy surged in all directions, reducing the garden to nothing. Almost all the exotic flowers and herbs had been reduced to dust. If you managed to miss that long post of mine, CSG now has a Patreon set up, where you can read up to 35 chapters ahead. Chapter 1173, Internal Strife of the Changyang Clan, 3. Jian Chen uncontrollably took over 10 steps back before finally nullifying the powerful force. Just as he stabilized himself, Changyang Qinyan aggressively attacked with his second palm strike. He continued to use his full strength without showing any mercy. With the attack, the space around Jian Chen froze, trapping him once again. Saint Kings at great perfection had already reached the very peak of Saint King. They were only an inch away from becoming a Saint Emperor, and they were the closest existences to Saint Emperor. Changyang Qinyan possessed an absolute advantage over Jian Chen, who was just a 7th heavenly layer Saint King. This time, Jian Chen could not break through the frozen space in time. All he could do was watch helplessly as Changyang Qinyan's powerful attack rapidly drew closer. Chaotic force wildly surged within him, having pushed the chaotic body to the limit already. He planned on taking the attack head-on. At this moment, an old but straight figure suddenly appeared in front of Jian Chen. He was Changyang Zhu Xiao, and energy pulsed from him as tremendous amounts of world force coiled around him. Although his vast presence was not as great as Changyang Qinyan's aura, he was not much weaker either. He then struck out with his palm, using invisible world force to fend off Changyang Qinyan's attack. Boom! With a great rumble, terrifying energy ripples played out in a terrifying storm, which caused the entire piece of floating land to violently shake. The energy of the world convulsed. Changyang Qinyan stood as still as a mountain, remaining where he was, but Changyang Zhu Xiao trembled gently. The ground where he stood had sunk a little. Changyang Zhu Xiao, what are you doing? Changyang Qinyan sharply glared at Changyang Zhu Xiao. Changyang Zhu Xiao emotionlessly looked at Changyang Qinyan. He said without any emotions whatsoever as well, Qinyan, are you going so far as to lay your hands so heavily on a junior? Xiangtian's a great elder of our clan, moreover. Great elder. Has there been any great elder who does not consider the clan's development first? He may be a great elder, but he's always been acting selfishly without considering for the clan at all. Is there any use for a great elder like that? From now on, I declare, in the name of the highest-ranking elder, that Changyang Zhu Xiangtian will be removed of his position as great elder, Changyang Qinyan coldly announced. You need the agreement of the 7 of us to remove a great elder from his position. Qinyan, you don't have the authority just by yourself, Changyang Zhu Xiao replied. It doesn't matter if you remove me from the position or not. I'm no longer a member of the Protector Changyang clan, and from now on, I have no connection to it either, Jian Chen yelled as he struggled in the frozen space. By now, a large number of people had gathered in the distance. The fight in the garden had alerted the entire inner clan. Many people hurried over from all directions, hovering high in the sky as they watched from very far away. They had all been forbidden to get anywhere near the battle by a few great elders through communication techniques, so no one dared to head over. Killing intent filled Changyang Qinyan's face. He made his way around Changyang Zhu Xiao and charged at Jian Chen. Qinyan, Xiangtian's a member of my Zhu branch. He cannot be trampled over like this by your Qing branch. Changyang Zhu Xiao blocked Changyang Qinyan and clashed several dozen times with him at the speed of lightning. Changyang Qinyan fell into utter rage after being blocked time and time again. He taunted, Changyang Zhu Xiao, if you insist of shielding him from his mistakes, don't blame me for not showing you any respect. Show me just how much you've improved in the past few years. The two of them began to fight ferociously. As they fought, they moved from the land to the sky, and then from the sky to a cluster of mountains in the distance. Various creatures were alarmed as the powerful ripples of energy rocked the entire space. Many cracks constantly expanded and constantly healed together. Several mountains had collapsed under their battle. I never thought that Zhu Zhao's strength had already reached the 9th heavenly layer and is about to reach great perfection. It won't be easy if Qin Yun wants to defeat Zhu Xiao, Changyang Qing Juri mumbled. The clansmen all stared at Changyang Qin Yun and Changyang Zhu Xiao as they fought in panic from afar. None of them knew what was happening. A lot of them felt uneasy when they saw the authoritative great elders fight in such an intense fashion. They all began to whisper in discussion. Juri, Yunfeng, come take down this wrongdoer for me, Changyang Qin Yun called out from afar. The confused clansmen all heard what Changyang Qin Yun had said, which immediately led to a great commotion. Various discussions rang out in all directions, but there were even more sounds of satisfaction made in the direction of Jian Chen. Jian Chen was young, where his actual age was not even a fraction of many of the people present, yet he had actually climbed his way up to a position of a great elder, looming above them all. This had led to the disagreement of many older people long ago, but it had all been suppressed by the great elders to the point that they could not mention it. Yet now, many people unhappy with Jian Chen no longer felt any fear because his wrongdoings had led to a fight between the two great elders. Various complaints constantly rang out. Changyang Qing Juri and Changyang Qing Yunfeng were all people of the same branch. They did not hesitate at all when they heard what Changyang Qin Yun said and immediately charged toward Jian Chen. Changyang Zhu Yunxiao sneered and went up to face them. He stopped Changyang Qin Yunfeng. Yunxiao, looks like you want to fight with me. Your strength may have increased, having broken through to the 5th heavenly layer, but you're still not my opponent. It's best if you don't interfere with this matter, just in case we end up falling out, Changyang Qin Yunfeng said. What a joke. You've decided to mistreat the people of my branch so roughly and in such a brazen fashion, yet you want to persuade me to not interfere? Changyang Zhu Yunfeng stood firm with his decision and was not swayed at all. I have nothing else to say if that's the case, Changyang Qin Yunfeng coldly replied and began fighting with Changyang Zhu Yunxiao. On another side, Changyang Qing Juri began to fight Jian Chen as well. However, he was only a saint king of the 5th heavenly layer, so he was nowhere near Jian Chen's opponent. After just clashing a few times, he lost an arm to Jian Chen and wailed out uncontrollably from the pain. How dare you! The crime for injuring a great elder cannot be forgiven. Wuji, Zhenghua, you two quickly come and capture the traitor of the clan. Changyang Qin Yun noticed the situation over there and furiously called out as he fought Changyang Zhu Xiao. He was boiling with rage. Changyang Yuan Wuji and Changyang Yuan Zhenghua hesitated slightly before heading toward Jian Chen in the end. Changyang Yuan Wuji was the stronger of the two, having reached the 8th heavenly layer of Saint King, while Changyang Qing Zhenghua was the weaker one, at the 4th heavenly layer. Jian Chen's pressure immediately increased when the two of them took part in the battle. He quickly fell to a disadvantage. It was rather difficult for Jian Chen to handle them, especially Changyang Yuan Wuji, who was at the 8th heavenly layer of Saint King. You have gone too far, Yuan and Qing branches, Changyang Zhu Xiao roared out as he fought Changyang Qin Yun. A violent presence radiated from him as his hair and clothes fluttered despite the absence of wind. Invisible world force in the surroundings rapidly gathered around him. Changyang Zhu Yunxiao looked at the sky, and he held his right hand as a fist over his head. His body was filled with a wildly domineering presence, as if he was about to challenge the world. A ball of faint white light suddenly appeared where his fist was, before turning white-hot in the blink of an eye. It seemed like a miniature sun, illuminating the surroundings. Founding God's Fist. It's the Founding God's Fist. Changyang Zhu Yunxiao, why, you're actually going to use the Founding God's Fist to deal with me? Changyang Qin Yunfeng paled in fright. He immediately shot back as he hurriedly circled his hands in the air. He created layers of defenses using a secret technique in front of him while Saint Force surged from his body at the same time. It condensed into a layer of armor on him. Changyang, Qin Yun and the two great elders of the Yuan branch's expressions changed slightly as well. They felt great fear for the founding god's fist. It was an extremely powerful and violent punching technique created by a talented ancestor of the Zhu branch. It was an extremely powerful Saint-tier battle skill, having reached the limits of Saint-tier battle skills and touching the edge of another domain. It was just a pity that the battle skill had always been controlled by the Zhu branch, so the people from the other two branches could not comprehend it. If you managed to miss that long post of mine, CSG now has a Patreon set up, where you can read up to 35 chapters ahead. Chapter 1174, The Founding God's Fist. Yun Xiao, you're actually using the Founding God's Fist against your own clansmen. Do you know what you're going right now? Changyang Qingyun furiously roared as he fought against Changyang Zhu Xiao. However, what he said was not enough to stop Changyang Zhu Yun Xiao. The Founding God's First was a powerful battle skill that bordered a whole different domain, so even with Changyang Zhu Yun Xiao's strength, he needed some time to charge it up. The weather in the surrounding area suddenly began to change. As he charged up the battle skill, the rich energy and world force in the independent world began to move violently, creating storms of energy and kicking dust into the air. The entire floating land gently trembled. The space around Changyang Zhu Yun Xiao began to violently shake. It wildly twisted, obscuring him and making his figure appear bent from time to time. Extremely powerful energy had condensed where his fist was. Transcendence, supreme shielding. As Changyang Zhu Yun Xiao's opponent, Changyang Qin Yunfeng shouted out as well. He used an ancient secret technique, using spatial force to create a spatial obstruction between him and Changyang Zhu Yun Xiao, as if they had been separated by two different worlds. Suddenly, a tremendous pressure appeared. It was so powerful that all the saint rulers who were watching from afar shuddered unknowingly, and many people below Saint Ruler had even collapsed to the ground. Some of the weaker people had even vomited blood. Just the pressure had ruptured their organs and made them heavily injured. The pressure was exceptionally great, far more powerful than other Saint-tier battle skills. Such a skill was extremely rare on the Tian Yuan continent, and only Saint Kings could resist it. Changyang Zhu Yun Xiao bathed in a dazzling light. He seemed like a god, possessing an absolute will. His fist slightly moved toward Changyang Qin Yunfeng from afar. His fist did not move fast at all, in fact, it could be described as extremely slow. However, as he punched, he seemed to have invoked some mysteries and powerful energies of the world, causing the muffled rumble of thunder to ring through the space. With a single punch, the weather changed and everything fell silent. The punch seemed to have replaced the world, becoming the only existence that moved. It was the most eye-catching thing in the world. The punch seemed to have used all the power in the surroundings. It shot forward with an unstoppable force in the form of an angered dragon. The Founding God's Fist had already reached the peak of Saint-tier battle skills and had already reached the border of a whole different domain. It was close to transcending the Saint-tier. The fist collided with the spatial barrier from Changyang Qin Yunfeng first, yet it was unable to stop it at all. The fist easily made its way through, causing the space there to violently shake. A region of it had already shattered, disintegrating into darkness, but it recovered very quickly. The battle skill was not weakened after making it through the barrier. It continued to surge toward Changyang Qin Yunfeng with great might. Changyang Qin Yunfeng became extremely stern. He had already been locked onto by the battle skill, so it could not be dodged easily, especially since it had virtually surpassed the Saint-tier. He could only take it head-on, unable to flee. The punch came in contact with the layers of defenses cast down through secret techniques with an earth-shaking commotion. It broke through all obstructions and landed on Changyang Qin Yunfeng's body mercilessly. Spurt. Blood immediately sprayed from Changyang Qin Yunfeng's mouth as mist. He was completely blown away, passing through several mountains along the way before finally becoming lodged in another mountain. There were no signs of movement from him for quite a long time. Changyang Zhu Yun Xiao, I definitely won't let you off easily for being so heavy-handed against a great elder, Changyang Qingyun furiously yelled again. His presence quickly skyrocketed, and he began to use his full strength regardless of the consequences. He blew Changyang Zhu Xiao away with a single palm strike before flying toward Changyang Zhu Yunxiao as a furious streak of light. The light around Changyang Zhu Yunxiao was extraordinarily blinding. After the attack, the might of the battle skill had no dispersed yet. He only stared at Changyang Qingyun in interest with no fear at all. Afterward, he punched toward Changyang Qingyun in the exact same manner. With the punch, everything fell silent. It seemed to have become the only existence in the world, possessing an unbelievable amount of force. Changyang Qingyun showed no emotion in his icy cold eyes. Although Changyang Zhu Yunxiao's battle skill had surpassed Saint Tier, it was still limited by his strength after all. It was not enough to threaten Changyang Qingyun. Soul-obliterating palm strike. Changyang Qingyun sneered. He struck his hand against the founding god's fist, and a pressure descended from the surroundings. It was also a Saint Tier battle skill, except it was nowhere as great as the founding god's fist, but with his strength at great perfection, Changyang Qingyun could use it instantaneously. The two Saint Tier battle skills collided in the air and a great boom erupted. Terrifying ripples of energy dissipated into the surroundings, almost causing the space there to shatter. The 18 divine halls high up in the sky had become even more consolidated now, holding the whole space in place. The two battle skills were equally matched and dispersed at the same time. Although the two battle skills varied in base power, the disparity in their caster's cultivation level was just far too great, which was why this difference in power could be made up. Before Changyang Zhu Yunxiao could recover from casting the battle skill, Changyang Qingyun arrived in front of him with a flash. He hit Changyang Zhu Yunxiao with a palm strike, which passed through the brilliance of the founding god's fist to land on his chest. Spurt. A cloud of blood shot from Changyang Zhu Yunxiao's mouth and blood immediately drained from his face. He was blown far away by Changyang Qingyun's attack, now heavily injured. I will never forgive you, Changyang Qingyun. Changyang Zhu Yunxiao was utterly enraged. He charged over from afar as his eyes boiled with killing intent. Changyang Zhu Yunxiao was his great-grandson and more importantly, the pride of the Zhu branch. Changyang Zhu Zhao's anger had reached an irrevocable level after watching Changyang Qingyun injure Changyang Zhu Yunxiao. Changyang Zhu Zhao's presence rapidly skyrocketed, reaching his peak very soon. It seemed like he was about to use the founding god's fist. Changyang Qingyun glared at Changyang Zhu Xiao and called out, Changyang Zhu Xiao, your Zhu branch has the founding god's fist, but my Qing branch has the nurture of spring. If we really do clash, the people who'll get hurt will only be the clansmen. Do you want to become labeled as an eternal traitor? Changyang Qingyun's eyes were filled with fear. He was able to dismiss Changyang Zhu Yunxiao's founding god's fist, but he needed to face the same battle skill cast by Changyang Zhu Xiao carefully. A gleam of light flickered through Changyang Zhu Zhao's eyes. After a moment of deliberation, he gave up on the thought of using the battle skill. Jian Chen's battle against the two great elders of the Yuan branch was intense. He was littered with wounds and very heavily injured. Changyang Yuan Zhenghua was also covered in many slashes from a sword. He was also heavily injured. If you managed to miss that long post of mine, CSG now has a Patreon set up, where you can read up to 35 chapters ahead. Chapter 1175, Descent of the Bright Moon Divine Hall of the Two Great Elders from the Yuan branch. Changyang Yuan Zhenghua was weaker than Jian Chen, but Changyang Yuan Wuji was an 8th heavenly layer Saint King. He was the 3rd strongest person of the clan and his strength completely surpassed Jian Chen's. Every single strike of his possessed mountain-shattering force, and he would use ancient secret techniques from time to time. It was very difficult for Jian Chen cope with, so he fell to a disadvantage. All the heavy injuries on Jian Chen had basically come from Changyang Yuan Wuji, but the chaotic body gifted him with great vitality and battle prowess at the same time. His strength did not decrease at all despite his injuries, but he could not last for too long either. Bang! With a muffled sound, Changyang Yuan Wuji's palm landed on Jian Chen's chest, launching him far away. The attack was very powerful. Jian Chen only stopped after flying several thousand meters and after colliding into a mountain. His entire chest had caved in and most of his ribs were broken. Jian Chen clenched his teeth and chaotic force quickly circulated within him. He recovered just as quickly, but even with that, his speed of recovery was far slower than the rate he was sustaining injuries. Jian Chen glanced around and saw that Changyang Zhu Xiao and Changyang Qin Yun were still fighting far away. Tremendous ripples of energy wreaked havoc in the surroundings, causing whole clusters of mountains to tremble. On the other hand, there were no signs of movement from Changyang Zhu Yunxiao after he had been blown away by Changyang Qin Yun. Jian Chen's face was extremely ashen. He was completely at a disadvantage right now. He could rival 7th Heavenly Layer Saint Kings if he fought by himself, but he was helpless against Changyang Yuan Wuji no matter how hard he tried. As a great elder, Changyang Yuan Wuji knew many powerful ancient secret techniques, so no ordinary Saint King could compare to him. The independent space was sealed as well, and it could not be opened without the corresponding technique. He was now trapped here and unable to leave. Energy pulsed up ahead as Changyang Yuan Wuji aggressively flew over. He glared fixedly at Jian Chen, as if he was afraid that Jian Chen would run away. Greed was evidently plastered across his face. Now that Qin Yun's busy with Zhu Xiao, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for me. I'll eat the fruit as soon as I get it, and he can't do anything to me. All he can do is watch from the side. I'll be able to reach the supreme realm of Saint Emperors very soon and become the strongest of the Protector clans. Changyang Yuan Wuji laughed maniacally inside. He could basically taste the moment he would become a Saint Emperor, but he needed to suppress his wild excitement, or he would have begun laughing aloud. But this brat's talent is very great. He'll probably reach Saint Emperor himself without much time, so he's a huge threat to me. He's going to suffer a death sentence today anyway, so I might as well go all in and finish him off right now. Thinking up to there, heavy killing intent immediately flashed through Changyang Yuan Wuji's eyes. He had made up his mind about killing Jian Chen since he had decided he would take the fruit. A silver lance completely condensed from energy appeared in Changyang Yuan Wuji's hand. With its materialization, a powerful pressure appeared in the surroundings, crushing Jian Chen like a mountain. It caused his body to sink and stopped all his actions. This was the pressure of a Saint-tier battle skill that originated from Changyang Yuan Wuji. The silver lance turned into a white streak of light, shooting toward Jian Chen with lightning-like speed. Jian Chen was stern. With a thought, the saint artifact immediately transformed into a 10-meter-tall golden tower in front of him, helping him withstand Changyang Yuan Wuji's Saint-tier battle skill. At the same time, a 3-meter-tall figure appeared beside Jian Chen with a flash of golden light. He was an extremely burly man who seemed like a small giant. His skin was goldish-brown, and a golden brilliance radiated from him. This figure was Tai Ta, who had remained within the saint artifact. Jian Chen had secretly informed Tai Ta long ago that the situation outside was very dangerous. As soon as he appeared, a dense layer of golden light surrounded him, and he called out, "Mysteries of War, World's Fist." The golden light around him condensed on his hand, and at that moment, a wondrous power actually revolved around his fist. He then smashed the space in front of him viciously. Thrum. Tai Ta's punch actually produced an extremely unique sound. It seemed like the creaking and painful wailing of space. It began to violently shake with Tai Ta's attack, showing signs of ripping apart. The 18 divine halls in the sky consolidated even more than before. Every single one of them radiated with an energy that fused with the independent space, reinforcing it so that it became even more powerful than the outside world. The space became indestructible, like a metal cage. The shaking space stabilized very quickly. Tai Ta's expression immediately changed when he saw this, and he said, "Jian Chen, I can't break through the space here." "What?" Jian Chen was shocked. He asked, "Tai Ta, didn't you say that your mysteries of war can break through all limitations of space and travel through the void and that you can go anywhere you want to?" Tai Ta scratched his head in a panic. He nervously replied, that's what the information I received said. My world's fist can indeed break through the limitations of any region of space, but I never thought it would be so tough here. It's become useless. Looks like my strength is too weak and my level of understanding regarding the technique isn't enough. God damn it, Jian Chen swore inside. The plan could not adapt to the changing situation. He had never imagined it would end up like this. It was already night outside right now. A full moon hung high in the sky, casting down beautiful moonlight. A silver-white divine hall silently descended from outer space before stopping above the entrance to the Changyang clan's independent space. The beautiful Yu, dressed in white, stood on top of the roof as she held the moon god's scepter that fairy Hao had given her. Suddenly, Yu raised the scepter and the gem embedded within it began to shine with dense moonlight. At the same time, the full moon in the sky suddenly grew brighter. It actually began to shine with unprecedented brightness, as if it was resonating with Yu's scepter. The two of them seemed to be calling out to each other from far away. I never thought that you'd have a helper, but inside the Protector clan, it's useless even if you bring a Saint King at great perfection, Changyang Yuan Wuji sneered back inside the independent space. The energy around him surged and rushed toward Jian Chen. Tai Ta's eyes slide over. A golden axe appeared in his hand, and he yelled, "Mysteries of war, destruction." A supreme battle intent suddenly appeared. It was enough to affect everyone's mind. At that moment, all the clansmen who were watching from afar lost any bravery to fight as their morale collapsed. All of them shivered under the battle intent as they looked at Tai Ta in dread. At that moment, Tai Ta seemed to have become an undefeatable war god in the eyes of many of them. Even saint rulers had lost their courage to fight in front of Tai Ta. An extremely dazzling streak of light shot through the air, heading toward Changyang Yuan Wuji like a bolt of lightning along with the battle intent. Changyang Yuan Wuji blanked out. The sudden battle intent had affected him slightly as well, but he could suppress the effects with his strength, so he recovered very quickly. Seeing the golden axe flying over, he wanted to dodge, but discovered that it had already locked onto his presence. He hurried and used an ancient secret technique and managed to block Tai Ta's attack, but the powerful force launched him far away. What is this presence? Changyang Qingyun and Changyang Zhu Xiao stopped fighting in the distance. They glanced at Tai Ta as doubt and surprise flooded their faces. The mysteries of war, destruction, isn't this a powerful battle skill used by the war god of the 100 races, Ergens, in ancient times, the one mentioned in the records? The records say that Ergens had used it to destroy a small portion of the entire continent with a single swing, and over 10 saint emperors died to it. Changyang Qingyun stared blankly as disbelief flooded his face. Changyang Zhu Xiao stared at Tai Ta as Tai Ta bathed in golden light from afar. He murmured, surrounded in golden light and able to give off such a unique battle intent. Is he, that's the war god of the 100 races. No wonder the 100 races had launched a large-scale invasion of our continent. That had never happened before after all, so it turns out to be all connected to the war god, Changyang Qingyun suddenly called out. He immediately guessed Tai Ta's identity and became both fearful and surprised. Even with his mental fortitude, he struggled to remain calm. The war god of the 100 races was just far too famous. His prestige was so great that even saint emperors would pale upon hearing about him. After all, he was a sovereign-like figure that had surpassed saint emperor. In ancient times, just the amount of saint emperors that fell by his hand was innumerable. Only other experts at the same level of cultivation could match up against him. However, Changyang Qingyun realized Tai Ta's strength very soon. He immediately calmed down very much and killing intent began to flow from his eyes in an undisguised manner. He said, Zhu Xiao, the war god of the 100 races has reappeared. We may not have been part of the matters during the ancient times, but you understand very well from the records. You know what you should be doing at this moment. Changyang Zhu Xiao frowned heavily. He stared at Tai Ta fixedly as the light within his eyes flickered. Before the war god has fully matured, kill him immediately and remove the future danger. Otherwise, the Tian Yuan continent will become doomed. The tragedy of the ancient times will be repeated, but this time, We don't have an expert like Mo Tianyun to stop him. Zhu Xiao, let's forget our disagreements for now and kill the war god together, Changyang Qingyun coldly said. He charged toward Tai Ta first after he finished speaking. Rumble. At this moment, a deafening boom rang out from the sky, causing the entire clan to violently shake. If you managed to miss that long post of mine, CSG now has a Patreon set up, where you can read up to 35 chapters ahead. Chapter 1176, Descent on Lore City, 1. Changyang Qingyun suddenly came to a stop after the huge boom rang across as he was charging at Tai Ta. He stared at the sky as some surprise and shock flooded his face. The sound had alarmed everyone in the clan, whether they were part of the inner clan or outer clan. At that moment, all of them raised their heads to the sky. Many people had no idea what was happening. The space in the sky shook and violently distorted. Strands of bright and gentle white light seemed to be worming through the cracked space. The 18 halls holding the space together had all completely appeared at that moment. They had become 18 real divine halls, maintaining the region of space. Every divine hall surged with tremendous energy along with profound truths of space. This is an invasion. 18 elders, quickly use the 18 halls to stabilize the space. We can't let the outsiders in, Changyang Qingyun gave a stern order. He was extremely grim. Before the internal strife of the clan had even reached a conclusion, people had already begun invading. If they did not stop the invasion in time, the Changyang clan would definitely end up paying a heavy price. 18 old men immediately took to the sky from the ground. They each flew toward a divine hall, wanting to enter the halls to harness their full power. However, just as they charged into the sky, the space of the Changyang clan jerked violently again. The space in the sky had been split open, and a large swathe of moonlight emerged, illuminating the entire clan and turning it into a silver-white world. Enter the divine halls. Someone exclaimed from the air. The 18 old men immediately stopped hesitating, ignoring what was happening in the sky. They entered the 18 divine halls as fast as they could. Immediately, each divine hall began to shine with extremely blinding light. The 18 divine halls created a huge formation, giving off even more powerful energy and mysteries of space to stabilize the realm. The crack in the sky also rapidly closed up. At this moment, a huge silver-white divine hall descended from the sky. It just happened to lodge itself within the healing cracks, preventing them from closing it up completely. Isn't this fairy Hao Yu's Bright Moon Divine Hall? Changyang Qingyun called out as shock flooded his face. It really is the Bright Moon Divine Hall. Changyang Zhu Xiao also stared at the divine hall in the sky in shock. Changyang Yuan Wuji temporarily forgot about Jian Chen and Tai Ta. He stared at the divine hall in the sky blankly so much that he could not return to his senses even after quite a while. At this moment, the door of the divine hall suddenly swung open. Yu emerged at the main entrance with the moon god's scepter in her hand as hazy moonlight fell from the arch of the entrance. It formed a light screen to protect Yu. Yu's beautiful face was currently filled with worry and undisguised anxiety. She stood there and constantly looked around, finding Jian Chen very quickly. However, her heart fell into agony when she saw Jian Chen all bloodied and covered in wounds. Tears began to uncontrollably roll from her cheeks. Jian Chen. Yu called out in grief. She wanted to fly down and help Jian Chen regardless of the dangers, but she was stopped by the light screen. She could not take a single step out of the divine hall. Jian Chen also discovered Yu. He immediately became stunned. Never did he think that Yu would actually come looking for him here. Jian Chen, get on here quick, Yu called out anxiously between her tears. Jian Chen glanced at Yu with extremely mixed emotions and wiped away the blood at the corner of his lips. With a thought, the saint artifact immediately flew back to his hand, and he flew toward a distant mountain. Very soon, Jian Chen flew over while carrying the heavily injured Changyang Xiao. He called Tai Ta over, and they flew toward the divine hall in the air together. Leaving won't be that easy. Changyang Qingyun roared out. He could not let Jian Chen go with the saint's fruit, nor could he let Tai Ta go as the war god. A terrifying pressure suddenly appeared. Changyang Qin Yun used a saint-tier battle skill with his strength at great perfection in attempt to prevent Jian Chen and Tai Ta from leaving. Yu Yu looked at Changyang Qin Yun with all the hatred she felt. She extended the scepter and a fist-sized strand of moonlight shot from the gem. It traveled toward Changyang Qin Yun at an unbelievable speed. Changyang Qin Yun had just finished preparing the saint-tier battle skill, but before he could even use it, he sensed the strand of moonlight shooting over from above. So he immediately used the saint-tier battle skill on the moonlight even though he had prepared it for Jian Chen and Tai Ta. With an enormous boom, Changyang Qin Yun's saint-tier battle skill was destroyed by the inconspicuous strand of light. The moonlight continued on without weakening, headed toward Changyang Qin Yun. Boom! The strand of moonlight struck Changyang Qin Yun in the chest, and he vomited a mouthful of blood. He also lost control over his ability to hover, falling out of the sky. Saint Emperor, this is a Saint Emperor's power. Changyang Qin Yun hovered back into the air again very soon. He stared at Yu Yu standing at the main entrance of the Divine Hall, and his face was filled with shock and disbelief. Jian Chen had already approached the Divine Hall with Tai Ta while carrying the heavily injured Changyang Xiao. He passed through the light screen without any obstructions and arrived inside the Divine Hall. Yu Yu was relieved seeing how Jian Chen had finally made it to the Divine Hall. She glared at all the people below before vanishing inside. Bang! The doors of the Divine Hall slammed shut and the Divine Hall gently trembled. Pure strands of moonlight force radiated from it, expanding the crack in the sky again in an attempt to leave. But at this moment, a supreme sword chi appeared from the forbidden grounds of the clan, causing the whole place to shake. Chapter 1177, Descent on Lore City, 2. The formations in the Forbidden Grounds had already cracked open. A huge sword shone with blinding light as it slowly rose into the air, radiating with earth-shaking sword chi. Around a dozen Saint Ruler old men sat beneath the sword. All of them were pale-faced and filled with exhaustion. They had expended a lot to use a secret technique to awaken the Emperor armament. Fantastic! The Emperor armament has finally awakened. Now let's see how the Bright Moon Divine Hall escapes. Changyang Qin Yun was delighted. It's the clan's Emperor armament. Wonderful, the Emperor armament has finally appeared. The might of our Emperor armament is unbelievable. Is there still anyone who can stand up to it once it appears? The invading Divine Hall won't even be able to take a single attack from the Emperor armament. The clan immediately began to buzz with the appearance of the Emperor armament. Many core members of the clan knew about the legend of the Emperor armament, so they obviously held blind belief in it. They believed it to be the most powerful weapon in the world. Suddenly, the huge sword gently trembled. A sword chi much more powerful than before immediately emerged. With its jerk, many tiny cracks immediately appeared in the tough space of the Changyang clan, and the Emperor armament turned into a resplendent streak of light. It stabbed at the Bright Moon Divine Hall with unbelievable speed, arriving nearby in a single instant. It seemed like it had teleported. Boom! With a deafening rumble, the Emperor armament struck the Divine Hall like a bolt of lightning. The sound from the collision temporarily deafened many people, causing their ears to ring. Terrifying energy ripples transformed into a violent storm as they ripped across the sky. The floating piece of land in the center of the Changyang clan violently shook. Many buildings collapsed and it was reduced to a mess. However, no one paid attention to the ruined houses. They all stared unblinkingly at the Emperor armament and Divine Hall in the sky. The Bright Moon Divine Hall remained hovering in the sky in a stable fashion. There were no signs of damage on the pure white and majestic structure, not even a single scratch in fact. The Bright Moon Divine Hall was actually unscathed after taking a strike from the Emperor armament. Impossible. Changyang Qin Yun stared at the sky wide-eyed. Disbelief had completely overwhelmed him, and he refused to accept what had just unfolded in front of him. Changyang Xiao also became stunned. He murmured, "The Emperor armament has been awakened by a secret technique and is unable to use its full might without anyone's control. but it can easily break through any divine hall. How can the bright moon divine hall take a strike from it and emerge completely fine? Even if it's made from the special materials of the moon, it's impossible for it to be this tough. Changyang Qingyun and Changyang Xiao were not the only people shocked. Every single person who knew the power of the Emperor armament became tongue-tied in disbelief at what had just happened. Thrum. The Emperor armament in the air resonated loudly before striking the divine hall again with great force. With another boom, the outcome was the same as before. The bright moon divine hall had forcefully taken on the Emperor armament's attack without sustaining any damage. The Emperor armament of a protector clan was actually unable to leave a single mark on the pure white structure. The divine hall became enshrouded by a layer of bright moonlight. Pure and powerful moonlight force slowly forced the crack open, which the divine hall then slowly rose through. It paid no attention to the Emperor armament. The war god of the 100 races is within the bright moon divine hall. We can't let it leave. Great elders, let's control the Emperor armament together. Otherwise, if the war god leaves here, there will be unthinkable consequences, Changyang Qingyun called out. Right now, the Emperor armament was only attacking automatically after it had been awakened. It was unable to use all its power without being controlled, so it was very weak. Other than Changyang Xiao, the other great elders all charged at the Emperor armament in unison. Even Changyang Qingyun, who had been heavily injured by Changyang Xiao's founding god's fist, participated as well. The bright moon divine hall broke out of the independent space and arrived outside. The crack in the space had finally closed up as well, concealing the Changyang clan once again. But, the next moment, the world gate of the Changyang clan opened widely. 5 great elders poured their strength together to control the Emperor armament as they aggressively flew out, making their way over to the bright moon divine hall. The Emperor armament became even more powerful under their control. The door of the divine hall swung open again and Yu emerged with the moon god scepter. Her face was filled with anger, and she used the scepter to receive the incoming Emperor armament. A strand of pure white moonlight force immediately surged out. There's not much power left. My dear disciple, don't use it all so casually. The power within the moon god scepter can only be used to save lives. Fairy Hao Yu's voice suddenly rang in Yu's head. Without her control, the power that gathered within the scepter dispersed by itself. Chapter 1178, Descent on Lore City, 3. Fairy Hao Yu stopped Yu and an invisible force surged from the divine hall. It wrapped around Yu and pulled her back into the divine hall. The door then slammed shut again. The control over the divine hall remained in Fairy Hao Yu's possession. Yu had only obtained partial control after obtaining special permission from Fairy Hao Yu, so she did not possess absolute power over the structure. Up ahead, the Emperor armament had already threateningly stabbed toward the divine hall with a soaring presence under the control of the 5 great elders. The space outside was not as tough as inside the clan, so it was ripped apart like paper wherever the Emperor armament passed, causing a huge, black gash to appear in the air. At this moment, a golden sword chi that was over 10 meters long shot over from behind. The sword chi glowed with a glimmering golden light, dyeing the night sky a golden hue. A huge phoenix completely condensed of white flames hovered beside the golden sword chi. Coupled with a clear phoenix's cry, it flew over with lightning-like speed beside the sword chi, heading toward the Emperor armament. Boom! The sword chi and phoenix violently collided with the Emperor armament and an extremely powerful ripple of energy erupted. It caused the space in a radius of 100 meters to collapse, reducing it to utter darkness. Violent energy splayed down, collapsing countless mountains and causing the ground to shake. Huge cracks extended to 1,000 kilometers away. Fortunately, the ancient mountain range where the Changyang clan resided was desolate. Only a few magical beasts lived there and rarely did anyone set foot there. Otherwise, just the ripples of the clash would have wiped out a large-scale city and turned it into a living hell. Powerful ripples of energy rammed into the Emperor armament and the 5 great elders in the form of storms after being blocked. It stopped them from advancing and forcefully pushed them back. The golden sword chi and the phoenix dispersed, and what replaced them was a glimmering sword and an exquisite, fire-red hairpin. The presence of origin energy. These are origin energy weapons. The 5 great elders changed in expression slightly, and they also began to frown. It's the 3 powerful magical beasts. I never thought that they'd actually hurry over at this crucial moment, Changyang Qingyunfeng growled. His complexion was extremely horrible. The 5 of them feared the magical beast trio very much, since they were existences that even Saint Emperors could do nothing to. 2 streaks, one golden and one red, broke through the pitch-black sky. They hurried over from afar extremely quickly. One moment, they were still near the horizon, far away, yet they had already arrived above the bright moon divine hall, and the next. They faced against the 5 great elders. They were Rui Jin and Hong Lian. The Protector clan's miniature worlds sure are wondrous. They can actually isolate all presences from being sensed. Even my secret techniques of the Dragon clan couldn't find Jian Chen. If it weren't for the fact that the battle that had erupted earlier alerted us, we probably wouldn't have been able to find this place. Rui Jin stared coldly and emotionlessly at the 5 people as he held the sacred dragon sword. The scorching god fire hairpin had returned to Hong Lian as well. She played around with the origin energy weapon in her hand and glanced out at the bright moon divine hall behind. She said, "The temptation of the saint's fruit really is enough to drive people mad. Looks like they've chosen to become Jian Chen's enemies for the fruit. This is an internal matter of our Protector clan. I hope you don't interfere. You may be in possession of origin energy weapons, but we have the Emperor armament left behind by our founding ancestor. The strength of it is not something you can imagine." Changyang Qingyun gave a heavy warning. He did not want to provoke Rui Jin and the others so easily. Rui Jin began to sneer. "Then I wonder if the Emperor armament of your Protector clan is more powerful, or if the treasure of the Dragon clan, the sacred dragon sword, is. And what about the legacy treasure of my Phoenix clan, the scorching god fire hairpin?" Hong Lian added as well. The 2 of them showed no fear at all against the Emperor armament. "Do the 2 of you really want to stick your noses into the business here?" Changyang Qingyun was pale white. The Emperor armament was very powerful, but controlling it was just far too difficult. They would be fine if it was only temporary, but once they controlled it for a long period of time, they would receive a backlash from the Emperor armament's power. The price they would end up paying would be far too great. At this moment, another black figure flew over from the distance. He arrived beside Rui Jin and Hong Lian and stood with them. It was the black-robed Yu. Yu's condition seemed horrible. Blood constantly flowed from the corner of his lips, dribbling all over his chest. His skin had become black as well. He was even more heavily poisoned than before. However, Yu remained just as mighty as before. He stood there threateningly with his machete in hand and his gaze sharp. Elevated battle intent radiated from him, as if he was about to charge into battle. Suddenly, the 5 great elders gently jerked. They had controlled the Emperor armament for quite a while now, so they were beginning to slowly suffer a backlash. Changyang Qingyun coldly stared at the bright moon divine hall for a while. He knew that if the great elders continued like this, the only people who would suffer in the end would be them. He finally made his decision and reluctantly ordered to retreat. "Let's return." The world gate was opened once again and the 5 great elders returned to the clan with the Emperor armament. At the same time, the bright moon divine hall turned into a silver-white streak of light and shot off. It vanished in the blink of an eye, and Rui Jin, Hong Lian, and Yu followed it closely. Night loomed over Lore City in the Jesson Kingdom. A full moon hung in the sky, shining with hazy moonlight. Groups of armored guards could vaguely be made out in the night as they patrolled the dead silent city, quietly upholding peace. An extremely few number of lights let off their dazzling glow in the Changyang clan. Groups of burly men patrolled every inch of the clan in high spirits. Every single person had extremely sharp eyes, which constantly swept over the gloomy corners. They were not tired in any way at all. These people were the guards of the Changyang clan. The current Changyang clan was incomparable to its past, so even the guards and the people from before had become much stronger. There were plenty of Earth Saint Masters, and even quite a few Heaven Saint Masters. During the still night, most people were in deep dreams, but, at this moment, the land became abnormally bright and the darkness of the city instantly vanished. The whole city had become illuminated at that moment. The sudden occurrence alerted all the patrolling guards of the city and the clan. Many people instinctively raised their heads to look at the sky, only to see a silver-white divine hall slowly descending with bright moonlight. It stopped 100 meters above the Changyang clan in the end. "What's that? Quick, contact the city lord." The night guards had seen the divine hall from very far away. All of them became stunned before quickly making their way to the city lord's residence. At the same time, the heavy and hurried sound of war drums rang through the city. They spread far and wide, rousing all the people from their sleep or cultivation. Chapter 1179, Xiao Bao the Cripple, 1. The quiet Changyang clan was completely illuminated in an instant. Several figures flickered everywhere and all the guards surged out from the rooms as quickly as they could. Many of them had been roused from their sleep, but none of them showed any drowsiness. All of them were in high spirits and possessed sharp gazes. It had only been 10 seconds since the war drums began beating. Several hundred figures suddenly emerged from the Changyang clan. All the guards gathered in the front courtyard, radiating with powerful presences. Before they could even inquire about what was happening, all of them sensed the extremely bright moonlight in the sky. They immediately looked up and became temporarily stunned when they saw what was in the sky. A huge divine hall surrounded by a dense layer of moonlight hovered firmly 100 meters above the clan. It blotted out the entire sky. "What's happening?" A heavy and authoritative voice rang out. Changyang Ba had emerged from his room in luxurious robes. He seemed even more dignified than before. Changyang Ba looked up at the sky because of the bright moonlight as soon as he took a step past the door sill. He too became stunned. Afterward, all the members of the upper echelon were alarmed as well. They all emerged from their rooms and stared at the divine hall in the sky in doubt and surprise. That seems like the bright moon divine hall mentioned by Yuer. Changyang Ba stared fixedly at the divine hall and softly murmured. He had learned that Yu had obtained the bright moon divine hall long ago, but he had never seen the actual structure. At this moment, the divine hall's entrance flung open. Jian Chen flew out as he carried the heavily injured Changyang Zhu Yunxiao while Tai Ta and Yu followed close by his side. "Xianger, it's young master." Jian Chen was immediately recognized as soon as he touched down. At first, there were a few soft cries filled with serendipity, but all the guards dropped to one knee in unison soon afterward. They all called out loudly, in excitement and admiration, "We greet the young master." In the blink of an eye, only Jian Chen's seniors remained standing among the large swathe of people. Changyang Ba quickly walked over. He became furious and surprised after seeing how Jian Chen was covered in blood. Without even greeting him, he directly asked, "Xianger, what's happened? Why are you so heavily injured? Who injured you?" Changyang Ba's voice was filled with concern as well as some worry. For Jian Chen to be reduced to such a horrible condition with his current strength, Changyang Ba really had no idea just how powerful the opponents his talented son had come across. "Xianger," with a sob, Bai Yuntian hurried over. She glanced at the various injuries on Jian Chen, and she could not help but jerk. She was heartbroken to see her precious son in such a chilling condition. Great-grandfather Yunxiao, this. Xianger, how did great-grandfather Yunxiao become injured like this? He's a great elder of a protector clan. Is there anyone bold enough to injure a great elder of a protector clan on the continent? Xianger, just what has happened? Changyang Ba paled in fright and hurriedly asked. "Mother, father, let's talk about this tomorrow. I'll take great-grandfather Yunxiao with me to heal." Jian Chen was rather gloomy. With that, he carried the unconscious Changyang Zhu Yunxiao to his residence. Yu and Tai Ta followed beside Jian Chen, leaving behind Changyang Ba and a great group of people standing there sternly. There were no sounds other than Jian Chen and the others' footsteps, which made the atmosphere extremely grim. "Rui Jin, hey you," and Hong Lian arrived at the clan not much later. They said nothing and all returned to their own residences. They possessed extremely great statuses in the clan, so they all possessed their own places to stay. The Bright Moon Divine Hall was not put away by Yu Yu. It remained hovering 100 meters in the air to prevent any accidents from happening. Right now, Yu Yu had become especially alert as well. She was afraid that the experts of the Protector clan would attack, so she left the Bright Moon Divine Hall outside to cover the clan. The night was dreary to the Changyang clan of Lore City. They all felt heavy-hearted as to what had happened to Jian Chen. For Lore City, the night was a sleepless one. The descent of the Divine Hall shook up the entire city, causing it to become bustling from its initial silence. Even the city lord had personally rushed to the clan to visit them, but he was turned away at the doorstep. The next morning, in a huge mountain range several 100,000 kilometers away, an expanse of simple, wooden huts stood silently in a beautiful little valley. It was filled with the bleak presence of time. This was a small village secluded from the world. The scenery there was beautiful and the energy of the world was extremely abundant where it formed a thin mist in the sky. Various herbs and invaluable heavenly resources grew in the surroundings. Heavenly resources of thousands of years of maturity could be seen everywhere, with countless heavenly resources of several hundred years of maturity. The village was rather large. Several hundred wooden huts and buildings of various sizes stood around in a certain arrangement, but no one could be seen. The entire village was dead silent. A great hall completely constructed from 10,000-year ironwood stood in the center of the village. Although it was ancient and old-fashioned, it was filled with a grandeur that invoked respect. A few people sat within the hall. The most eye-catching person was a woman in azure clothes. She carried a zither in her bosom and her face was concealed by a veil. Although her appearance was not visible, her bearing gave away her supreme beauty. 3 old men with long eyebrows sat politely in front of her. Their appearances were rather striking, and the central old man held a perfectly sealed embroidered box. Esteemed heavenly enchantress, the heaven's heart lotus you gave us has already been refined into a pill of mild properties. It's refined from a 10,000-year heavenly resource, but even ordinary people will remain fine if they ingest it. There's no need to worry about its potency that might lead to people imploding. The old man passed the box to the heavenly enchantress. He spoke rather politely but also with some dread. The heavenly enchantress accepted the box and opened it. A perfectly round, thumb-sized pill lay in there silently as a layer of mist encircled it lazily. It gave off a heavy fragrance. The heavenly enchantress' plain eyes finally showed some change when she saw the pill. She said, "The ancient medicine village sure is worthy of its name, to use so little time to refine a 10,000-year heavenly resource." The ancient medicine village was an ancient organization that had existed for over 100,000 years. They were one of the more powerful ancient clans and specialized in refining medicine and using medicine to cultivate. They used an extremely different method of cultivation, so they had already reached great mastery over the refinement of pills. They remained secluded most of the time, so they were not known at all. There were not many people who knew of its existence even in most ancient clans. Esteemed heavenly enchantress, we have already fulfilled your request. I just wonder about the Grand Elder's injury, an old man carefully inquired. He was extremely fearful of the woman seated in front of him. The heavenly enchantress put the box away and said in ordinary voice, "It's fortunate that your Grand Elder's chi deviation is not too severe. I've already used the soul-nurturing melody to heal the wounds of his soul, so he will wake up in 3 days' time. He just needs to take good care of himself, and he will make a full recovery." The 3 old men rejoiced with that. They all thanked her, "Thank you for helping out. We will never forget your kindness." The heavenly enchantress left the village with the pill. When she left, the 3 elders who possessed extremely great status within the village immediately exhaled in relief. They felt lingering fear when they thought back to the moment she had first arrived in the village. Just who is this heavenly enchantress? She's so terrifying. Just a flick of the finger and everyone in the village fell asleep. Even the saint rulers weren't able to resist. It's fortunate that she was not hostile, or destroying our village with her strength would have been a piece of cake. Her skills with the zither are just far too terrifying. She specializes in affecting the soul. Even with our strength as Saint Kings, we struggle to resist 3 notes she played. Just what level of cultivation has she reached to be this strong? When the Grand Elder suffered chi deviation in his cultivation, he had injured his soul and has remained unconscious for several decades. The injuries of the soul are the hardest to heal, yet the heavenly enchantress has healed his injuries with just a single tune. Is that really all that she's done? Chapter 1180, Xiao the Cripple, 2. After leaving the ancient medicine village, the heavenly enchantress did not return to 3 Saint Island immediately. Instead, she ripped open a space gate and went to the city of God in the Holy Empire. As one of the 7 capitals of the continent, its prosperity was beyond suspicion. People surged through the streets and alleyways as shouts rang out, adding to the commotion. It was bustling and countless experts gathered there. A giant, majestic castle stood in the center of the city like a sleeping primordial beast. A large number of white-robed radiant Saint Masters who bore various colored badges on their chests walked in and out. This was the headquarters of the Radiant Saint Master Union, the most sacred place to Radiant Saint Masters on the continent, since almost all the Class 7 Radiant Saint Masters gathered there at this moment. The heavenly enchantress appeared silently with her zither and veil. She hovered 100 meters in the air as she coldly stared at the castle. Shortly afterward, a powerful presence radiated from her, surging out like a blanket and enveloping the entire headquarters. All the experts within the Union became alarmed. Figures flickered outside the castle as several saint rulers made their way outside as quickly as possible. They glared at the heavenly enchantress. Afterward, around a dozen balls of white light flew out of the castle. They were white-robed radiant Saint Masters with blue and purple badges. The President and Grand Elders stood at the very front. Behind them followed other Class 6 and 7 Radiant Saint Masters. The President stared at the heavenly enchantress in interest. When he recognized her, surprise immediately flashed through his eyes, and he said, "Muir, it's actually you." The heavenly enchantress looked at the President and her cold eyes immediately began to warm up slightly, and some respect appeared in her gaze as well. "I greet the President." The heavenly enchantress nodded her head slightly, greeting the President of the Radiant Saint Master Union on her own accord. The President gently smiled, as if he was an elder looking at a junior. He said, "Muir, it's been so many years and this is the first time you've come to my union. Please come in." The saint rulers who had hurried over at the very beginning immediately became relieved when they heard what the President had said. The gazes they directed toward the heavenly enchantress were no longer filled with hostility. The hostility had been replaced by shock and admiration. Although her face was covered by a veil, it was not enough to conceal the heavenly enchantress' supreme beauty. Just by standing there, everyone could feel an otherworldly bearing from her, as if she was a goddess. "Esteemed President, I've come visiting this time because I have a matter that I wish the Great Union to assist me with," said the heavenly enchantress. "Changyang Muir, your father's a very good friend of the Union. The Union will fulfill any request you have as long as it's within our capabilities. May I ask what you need us for?" The Grand Elder responded. The heavenly enchantress' eyes immediately grew cold when she heard the word father. She said, "I've come looking for help out of my own accord. It has nothing to do with Hao Wu. Your relationship with him has nothing to do with me." Sigh, the President gently exhaled. He said, "Muir, are you still unwilling to forgive your father even after so many years?" "Don't mention that person in front of me," the heavenly enchantress coldly replied. She radiated an unhidable anger. The President and Grand Elder looked at each other and shook their heads helplessly. They sighed inside. From the heavenly enchantress' reaction, they knew that her hatred for her own father was still extremely deep. A while later, the heavenly enchantress calmed down. She said, "President, I want to take a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master with me to 3 Saint Island." The President pondered in silence before deeply looking at the heavenly enchantress. He said, "Muir, a huge matter has happened on the Tianyuan continent 2 days ago. Many Saint Kings were heavily injured, so almost all the Class 7 Radiant Saint Masters of the Union have been whisked away by the various ancient clans and protector clans. Right now, there's only 3 Class 7 Radiant Saint Masters watching over the Union, yet you want to take a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master to the distant 3 Saint Island in this time of need. It really does make it rather hard for us, but of course, your father's a good friend of the Union. If your father comes personally, the Union will agree to the request without any hesitation. Esteemed President, I am still extremely grateful to you for saving my life all those years ago, but I need to take a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master with me back to the island no matter what. I hope you can agree to this, the Heavenly Enchantress sincerely replied. All of this was for Xiao Bao. The energy hidden within 10,000-year heavenly resources was tremendous. The Heaven's Heart Lotus might have been refined into a pill with mild medicinal effects, but Xiao Bao was still young. She was unwilling to take the risk, so she needed to be prepared to prevent any accidents from happening to him. A hunchbacked figure flew out of the castle. He was a wrinkly old man who wore simple clothes. He seemed like any old person, but he was the one and only Saint King of the Union. Shangguan Mu'er, you should go ask your father to come, or it's impossible for you to take a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master with you to 3 Saint Island, the old man said rather powerlessly. The Heavenly Enchantress stared unblinkingly at the old man. Her voice became rather icy as well. Elder Jia, if I really wanted to take a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master with me, no one can stop me, even with the entire Union in perspective. I just don't want to cause that type of trouble since the President once saved my life. Elder Jia began to laugh. It's rumored that the Heavenly Enchantress can captivate the soul and harm it with a single tune, able to kill people without even letting them notice. However, all your opponents were Saint Rulers. The souls of Saint Kings are incomparable to the souls of Saint Rulers, so your melodies cannot harm me even if they prove to be fatal to Saint Rulers. Chapter 1181, Xiao Bao the Cripple, 3. The Heavenly Enchantress could not help but smile scornfully beneath her veil after hearing how confident Elder Jia was. She said, Elder Jia, why don't you try it then and see whether my melodies truly do pose a threat to Saint Kings or not? The Heavenly Enchantress was only grateful to the President within the entire Union. Even with Elder Jia's great status, he did not receive any respect from her. Elder Jia flew up. His entire presence suddenly underwent an overwhelming change. In that moment, he had suddenly straightened up and great confidence filled his body. The robes he wore fluttered despite the lack of wind, making him seem awe-inspiring. Elder Jia stood in the sky with his arms crossed. His eyes shone brightly with interest. He seemed like a completely different person from the simple old man from before. Shangguan Mu'er, do it. Show me just how powerful your melodies are, Elder Jia easily said. He could not see through the Heavenly Enchantress' strength, but he had heard the legends about her. He still believed that she was a Saint Ruler. At the same time, the presence from the Heavenly Enchantress was only at the level of Saint Rulers despite its strength, so it did not catch the 4th Heavenly Layer Saint King's eyes at all. Elder Jia, forgive me. The Heavenly Enchantress replied rather coldly. She gently placed her white, gentle hand on the zither strings and used a single, elegant finger to gently strum a string. Ding! The crisp sound did not make it very far. It only reached 100 meters before vanishing. The President, Grand Elder and the Saint Rulers behind them all focused their attention. They prepared themselves against the enchanting melodies that the Heavenly Enchantress could play. Abilities that could influence the soul were the hardest to guard against, and the only way to resist was to possess a powerful soul. As a result, they could not take the attack lightly even though the Heavenly Enchantress did not target them. However, there were no other disturbances after the Heavenly Enchantress' first note. Unlike everyone had imagined, there was no enchanting melody that could affect the souls of Saint Rulers, just a clear note that had not caused them any discomfort at all. However, no one realized that Elder Jia's eyes had grown blank from their original brilliance. They had become dull and lifeless. Any light they were supposed to reflect had completely vanished. Afterward, his body gently swayed, and to everyone's surprise, he fell out of the sky. His dull eyes also slowly closed. Elder Jia. Elder Jia. With a number of cries, a few saint rulers immediately rushed to Elder Jia's side. They caught his body just before it was about to strike the hard ground. Elder Jia, are you all right? The saint rulers urgently asked the old man. The president and grand elder became stern as well. They immediately descended to Elder Jia's side, and after examining him, they found that everything was normal. He did not suffer any injuries at all. Moor, what did you do to Elder Jia? The president looked at the heavenly enchantress and asked with a rather trembling voice. He struggled to believe what had just happened. President, the elder is fine. He will wake up very soon, answered the heavenly enchantress. The president was finally relieved with that. Still badly shaken, he looked at the heavenly enchantress in the sky and his heart surged. Elder Jia was a mighty saint king, and one that had reached the fourth heavenly layer after all, yet he was so puny before the heavenly enchantress, being knocked out by a single note. This was rather hard to believe, and he still struggled to accept it all as true even though it had unfolded right before his eyes. At this moment, everyone's opinion of the heavenly enchantress underwent a huge change, whether it was the president, the grand elder, or the saint rulers. All of them had witnessed how terrifying the heavenly enchantress was when a fourth heavenly layer saint king appeared so puny in front of her. Elder Jia slowly opened his eyes. They were filled with confusion, which cleared up instantly. He then sensed that he was laying on the ground, so he immediately became surprised. He climbed to his feet and raised his head to look at the heavenly enchantress in disbelief. His heart began to beat heavily in an uncontrollable fashion after so many years of peace. Elder Jia, are you fine? The president asked in concern. He was the only saint king of the Union, so his existence was extremely important. Elder Jia completely ignored what the president said, as if he hadn't even heard it at all. He only stared at the heavenly enchantress blankly. He could not help but think over what had just happened inside. He did not feel any discomfort after hearing the clear note, but he felt like he had been hit by a very powerful charm, making his soul become sleepy and making him fall unconscious very quickly. Even with his powerful soul, he could not resist. Elder Jia, you've lost. The heavenly enchantress coldly stared at the old man with her captivating eyes and nonchalantly commented, as if just using a single note to knock out a fourth heavenly layer saint king was no special matter for her. Sigh, Elder Jia exhaled. His upright figure became hunchbacked again, returning to his previous posture. He said rather dejectedly, I have lost. The power of your melodies really are terrifying. I admit that I am weaker. The president, grand elder, and the other radiant saint masters and heaven saint masters all fell silent. A fourth heavenly layer saint king had just suffered defeat like this and in such a miserable, horrible fashion. He did not even have the opportunity to fight back. Esteemed President, I hope you can agree to my request and let me take a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master back to 3 Saint Island. I will definitely send him back safely very soon. The heavenly enchantress' tone changed as she courteously made her request to the president again. Sigh, the president exhaled deeply as well. He stared at the heavenly enchantress with mixed emotions and said, Moor, after so many years, I never thought that you'd actually become so powerful, far more powerful than anything I ever expected. With the strength you've displayed, my union indeed does not have the power to stop you. Whatever, I'll go with you to 3 Saint Island. President, you can't. The Union needs you to remain safe. Let me go instead, said the Grand Elder. No. President, Grand Elder, you two are extremely important to the Union. You definitely can't leave the Union at this point in time. Let me go instead. The only other Class 7 Radiant Saint Master present spoke extremely firmly. The President pondered silently for a while before agreeing, all right then. The 6th Elder can go with Moor to 3 Saint Island. The President then looked at the heavenly enchantress and said, Moor, you must protect the 6th Elder during the journey there. The heavenly enchantress nodded slightly before gently swinging her elegant hand. She ripped open a space gate before leaving the city with the 6th Elder. On the 3 Saint Island, the heavenly enchantress, Xiao Qian, Xiao Yu, Qin Qin, and the white-robed sixth elder all gathered in a cave filled with luminous pearls. All of them stared unblinkingly at the chubby white boy between them. The boy was very young, only around 2 or 3 years of age. He was extremely cute. His tiny mouth was stuffed full, chewing on the thumb-sized pill laboriously. A streak of saliva ran from the corner of his mouth. The pill was obviously nothing to adults, but it was clearly a little too big for a child who had not grown up completely. The pill filled his entire mouth. Chapter 1182, Xiao Bao the Cripple. 4. The pill created from a 10,000-year heavenly resource finally dissolved in Xiao Bao's mouth, which he then consumed. Immediately, a gentle and vast energy erupted within him, flowing into his limbs and bones and filling up his body. The heavenly enchantress, the sixth elder, Xiao Qian, Xiao Yu, and Qin Qin all stared at Xiao Bao, very focused. As the vast energy filled up Xiao Bao, Xiao Qian immediately said, "Xiao Bao, quick, use the method that I taught you. Use your mind to circulate the energy within you." Xiao Bao obediently agreed and immediately sat down. He placed his arms on his knees and closed his eyes with a serious expression. He quietly circulated the energy using the method that Xiao Qian had taught him before. Very soon, thin beads of sweat appeared on Xiao Bao's forehead. His complexion also became rather unnatural. He could clearly feel the tremendous amount of energy surging within him, but he could not control it as he wished since he had not begun cultivating. In fact, he was still rather unsure of how to control the energy. He was nowhere near a level of mastery. The sixth elder paid close attention to Xiao Bao. He understood why he had come to the Three-Saint Island. The heavenly enchantress had personally visited the Union to bring a skillful Class 7 Radiant Saint Master back with her in order to prevent any accidents from occurring when the boy ingested the pill. More importantly, the medicinal effects of the heavenly resource had already become extremely gentle after being refined into a pill. Even ordinary people would be able to ingest it without accidents, but the heavenly enchantress was still worried, so she had invited a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master. This was more than enough to see just how important the boy was to the heavenly enchantress. Energy appeared continuously within Xiao Bao's body. It was not controlled by him, and instead, it expanded to every corner of his body by itself before slowly fusing with his flesh and organs, or more accurately, it was absorbed by Xiao Bao's flesh and organs. In the blink of an eye, 2 days passed and Xiao Bao had completely absorbed the pill. However, there was still no energy within him. The heavenly enchantress, Xiao Qin, and Xiao Yu, who had been with him through the entire process, immediately extended an arm to sense the situation inside of him. A while later, their expressions abruptly changed. Their faces were filled with disbelief. How is that possible? There's still no saint force in Xiao Bao. There's not even a drop, Xiao Qian uncontrollably exclaimed. A 10,000-year-old heavenly resource is enough for a person who cannot cultivate to undergo a complete rebirth and increase their strength by quite a lot at the same time. But Xiao Bao, no, it's impossible. Xiao Yu shook her head as she appeared to be rather pained. She seemed to refuse to accept what had just happened. There was no room for doubt as to the amount of energy hidden within a 10,000-year-old heavenly resource, yet it was just like nothing to Xiao Bao. Qin Qin was stunned by the outcome as well. She murmured, even a 10,000-year-old heavenly resource isn't enough to change Xiao Bao's constitution. Does that mean that Xiao Bao really is that crippled? Is he even more crippled than a cripple? The heavenly enchantress stared blankly at Xiao Bao's chubby face with her enchanting eyes. She remained silent for quite some time and had become rather dejected. She dared not believe the outcome, she refused to accept it. It had affected her much more heavily than anyone present. Impossible. This is impossible. Only after quite a while later did the heavenly enchantress hoarsely speak. She could not help but think back to what had happened before. Until now, only the heavenly enchantress knew the true identity and origins of Xiao Bao. Xiao Bao was not a child she had found elsewhere, but her own child. He was her own flesh and blood. She had been pregnant with him for 10 whole years, and during the pregnancy, her strength skyrocketed at an unbelievable rate. She knew it was all because of the child in her womb. Other than the dragon saliva that Jian Shen had left behind, the main reason her strength could reach such an unbelievable level in such a short amount of time was Xiao Bao. During her pregnancy, the heavenly enchantress knew that the child in her womb was extraordinary. When she had given birth to him, she had even concluded without a second thought that Xiao Bao was an unprecedented genius, someone that could even surpass Saint Emperor in the future. However, never did she think that the outcome could actually be like this. Xiao Bao was no unprecedented prodigy, just a cripple. Even a 10,000-year-old heavenly resource was not enough to change his constitution. He was even more crippled than cripples actually. Sigh, Xiao Bao is so pitiful, Xiao Yu helplessly sighed. She became rather dejected. Xiao Qian said after thinking a little, we don't need to be too sad. Xiao Bao may be an ordinary person, but ordinary people can obtain happiness and joy as well. They can live every day without worries, unlike the cultivators of the continent who would erupt into a battle of life and death with just the slightest provocation. Their outcome in the end is miserable. The heavenly enchantress closed her eyes rather painfully. She did not wish to see Xiao Bao be a normal person as they only had a lifespan of 200 years. 200 years were just far too short. She could not imagine the scene of her son slowly aging before her eyes until he passed away. The sixth elder stared at Xiao Bao weirdly. He furrowed his brows tightly and murmured, odd, so odd. It really is very odd. Even a heaven saint master needs quite a lot of time to digest and absorb the energy within a 10,000-year-old heavenly resource, yet this child right before us used just 2 days. This is illogical. That's just how Xiao Bao's constitution is. We've fed him many thousand-year-old and several thousand-year-old heavenly resources in the past, but all the energy would disappear in less than a day. Other than having a body more powerful than normal people, there's been no other changes. Xiao Yu sat on the floor gloomily as she placed her chin on her knees. She was very sad that Xiao Bao was a cripple. Qin arrived before the sixth elder and hopefully asked, esteemed Radiant Saint Master, you're knowledgeable, so may I ask if you have any ideas to deal with Xiao Bao's problem? I really don't have any, the sixth elder shook his head with a wry smile. This was the first time he had seen a 10,000-year-old heavenly resource fail to change someone's constitution. On the Tianyuan continent, 10,000-year-old heavenly resources were more than enough to allow a cripple undergo a rebirth. However, these heavenly resources were just too rare and too valuable. They were not items ordinary people could afford. Suddenly, the sixth elder seemed to think of something and his eyes suddenly began to shine. He said, perhaps only such a sacred item will have an effect. What is it? The heavenly enchantress suddenly snapped open her eyes and stared at the sixth elder in interest. The saint's fruit. The sixth elder stressed every single word. He was extremely stern. The Radiant Saint Master Union possessed a very lengthy history, so they had clear records regarding the fruit. They just did not have the power to compete for it, which was why they never participated in obtaining it. Chapter 1183, Threat, the Saint's Fruit? What's that? The heavenly enchantress uncertainly asked. The Saint's Fruit is a sacred item of the continent. It is a treasure that belongs to us humans. The sixth elder possessed an extremely detailed understanding of the fruit. What he knew was no less than the great elders of the protector clans. He explained everything he knew regarding the fruit to the heavenly enchantress. Whoa, it's that powerful. A heavenly resource that can actually let a saint king become a saint emperor. Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu immediately cried out when they heard about the heaven-defying nature of the fruit. They were amazed and Qin was not an exception either. She too was stunned. The heavenly enchantress thought as she shifted her gaze, no wonder I felt a presence that seemed like a saint emperor appear in a direction far away. It covered the entire continent. I had originally thought that a new saint emperor had appeared on the Tianyuan continent, but I never thought that it was actually just the commotion of the saint's fruit. It's a pity that I was in the ancient medicine village back then and it just happened to be a vital moment in the refinement of the heaven's heart lotus. I could only watch over the refinement in order to guarantee that no accidents occurred, or I definitely would have went to have a look. The heavenly enchantress looked at the sixth elder and continued, Sixth elder, are you saying that the saint's fruit can truly make Xiao Bao undergo a rebirth, allowing him to overcome his current situation? The saint's fruit is a unique item of the world. Its wonders and powerful effects are beyond doubt. I think only the saint's fruit will be able to help the boy if even a 10,000-year-old heavenly resource is useless to him. It's just, sigh. The sixth elder stopped talking and shook his head rather helplessly. Sixth elder, it's just what? The heavenly enchantress stared at the sixth elder as she became rather anxious. It's just that it already has an owner now, and the owner is no ordinary person. Even the 10 protector clans can't do anything to him, so obtaining the fruit is impossible, the sixth elder sighed. He could not help but think of the rumors regarding the person in question. I must say that he really is an unprecedented genius. Not only is he a Class 6 Radiant Saint Master, he's climbed to an extremely great level as a fighter as well. The sixth elder sighed emotionally inside and his emotions became rather mixed. The heavenly enchantress' expression remained the same. An expert that even the 10 protector clans could do nothing to was not enough to waver her mental state. She inquired, Sixth elder, just who is this person? Is it the human saint emperor, or is it a saint emperor of the beast god continent? None of them. The sixth elder shook his head, this person is young. He's only become famous in recent years. Shangguan Mu'er, you spend most of your time on the island and rarely set foot on the continent. You definitely wouldn't know this person. His name is Jian Chen. A gleam of light flashed through the heavenly enchantress' eyes and she immediately responded with a different expression. What? This person is called Jian Chen? Surely he isn't the master Jian Chen we know. Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu immediately stood up in shock. Qin Qin became shocked as well. She immediately pulled out a scroll from her space ring and unrolled it. She asked, slightly emotional, esteemed Radiant Saint Master, please see whether it's this person or not. To no surprise, on the scroll was an image of Jian Chen. The image was extremely well drawn. It seemed realistic, as if he was present with them. Qin Qin had drawn the image when she was in the Tianqin clan, and she had kept it ever since. Yes, it's him. Do you know Jian Chen? This time, the person shocked was the sixth elder. His opinion of Qin Qin underwent a change. He had never thought that the lady who was not in possession of much strength would be carrying around an image of Jian Chen, and from how realistic the drawing was, he was certain that the artist had met Jian Chen before and had spent quite a lot of time together. Ah! It really is Master Jian Chen. Since when did Master Jian Chen become so powerful, where even the 10 protector clans can't even touch him? Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu's mouths hung agape as disbelief flooded their faces. The heavenly enchantress stared blankly at the person in the image while her emotions became extremely mixed. She struggled to remain calm inside. Very soon, the heavenly enchantress shifted her gaze from the drawing and her eyes became cold again. After thinking a little, she said, I'll visit the Tian Yuan continent immediately. Sixth elder, thank you for your assistance. Would you like to stay on the island for a little longer, or would you like to return to the continent with me? It's better if I return to the continent. Many experts have become heavily injured from the fight over the fruit before, so many Class 7 Radiant Saint Masters have been whisked away by various large clans. Right now, the Union is in need of manpower, so I should return, replied the sixth elder. In Lore City, the Bright Moon Divine Hall had shrunken to roughly 100 meters long and wide, but it continued to hang in the air. The atmosphere of the Changyang clan had clearly become rather grim. There were many more guards on patrol, and the experts hidden on the estate had increased by several-fold compared to any other day. Changyang Zhu Yunxiao had made a full recovery with the origin energy of a Radiant Saint Master, but he lived in deep sorrow right now. His mind was somewhere else every day, and he was extremely gloomy. Everything that had happened in the Protector clan before played through his head like a brand new memory, severely affecting him. It left behind an irremovable scar in his heart. The Protector clan was his home. It was the place he had grown up, so he had many attachments to it. However, He knew that it would probably be impossible for him to return again now. Changyang Zhu Yayan stayed beside Changyang Zhu Yunxiao, but she did not comfort him. All she did was sit quietly beside him. She no longer longed for her son ever since Changyang Zhu Yunkong's return, filling in the gap within her mind. Her soul was strengthening every day, and she was about to break through to Saint King. Jianshen did not tell anyone else about what had happened in the Protector clan. He did not even reveal the matter to his parents. He even made up a lie to them. After all, the matter had really been blown out of proportion by this time. It was not as simple as offending a Protector clan. It was offending a group of ancestors with shocking seniority over Changyang Ba and the others. He did not want his parents worrying over this. Jianshen, Yu, and Tai Ta gathered in the most majestic hall within the Changyang clan. Jianshen had now made a complete recovery from his wounds. He wore luxurious robes with gold lining, like the young master of a large clan. Jianshen, the Changyang clan has gone too far to treat you like that. It's fortunate that my master contacted me when you were in danger, or, Yu was furious. She felt lingering fear when she thought of Jianshen's situation and secretly rejoiced that she had made it in time. I will be taking revenge for this sooner or later, Jianshen said emotionally and rather hoarsely. An extremely powerful killing intent was hidden inside him. This time, he really was almost doomed. If Yu had not arrived in time with the Bright Moon Divine Hall, the outcome would have been unthinkable. He would definitely not have been able to keep the saint's fruit he had spent a tremendous effort to obtain. Now that Tai Ta's identity has been revealed, I think Changyang Qin Yun and the others will definitely do something about it, Jianshen gruffly said. The light in his eyes flickered with uncertainty. Jianshen, let's get Tai Ta to hide within the Bright Moon Divine Hall. The toughness of the structure is incomparable to other divine halls. Even the experts of the 10 Protector clans won't be bold enough to step into it recklessly, suggested Yu. She had gained some understanding from Jianshen regarding Tai Ta's identity. Young master, there is a secret letter for you. At this moment, a guard's voice rang from outside. Come in, Jianshen ordered. The door was gently opened and a guard entered with his head down. He carried a sealed letter. He directly delivered it to Jianshen's hand. Jianshen's face immediately sank when he read it. Clenching his hand, strands of chaotic force actually surged out, and with a bang, the letter was blown apart into dust. Jianshen, what did the letter say that's made you so angry? Yu asked in concern. Some worry filled her face as well. Jianshen slowly released his grip and gently sipped a mouthful of tea in a composed manner. He slowly answered, it's from Changyang Qin Yun. He said that if I want to keep Tai Ta's identity a secret, I need to hand over the saint's fruit, or he'll call on the experts of the Tian Yuan continent and Beast God continent to hunt Tai Ta down together. Chapter 1184, Poison. Changyang Qin Yun has just gone too far to threaten you for the saint's fruit with such conditions. His actions are no different from a shameless wretch. He's not worthy of being a great elder of a Protector clan, Yu said righteously. Jianshen had only obtained the saint's fruit with the assistance of Roy Jin and the other two after tremendous effort, so it should belong entirely to Jianshen. Yet, Changyang Qin Yun had posed such a horrible condition on him as the strongest great elder of the Changyang clan as well as Jianshen's senior, which infuriated Yu. Tai Ta's complexion became rather horrible as well. He silently pondered as he sat there before making up his mind in the end. He said through clenched teeth, Jianshen, it's best if I leave here. Otherwise, you'll probably get dragged into it when Changyang Qin Yun works with all the people to hunt me down. I know many mysteries of war now. Even if I'm not their opponent, I can run. Jianshen raised his hand to reject Tai Ta's suggestion without any hesitation. He stared at Tai Ta and responsibly said, Tai Ta, don't ever say things like that again. The Protector clans are very powerful, but they're not enough for us to fear. Even if they unite all the experts of the Tian Yuan continent and the Beast God continent, can they really kill us? Tai Ta, don't be depressed. You can't forget that I have the Bright Moon Divine Hall as well. Master has said that the Divine Hall is so tough that even Saint Emperors can't get through its defenses, and she's cast down formations inside. There are absolute killing formations that can even wipe out Saint Emperors. As long as we have the Divine Hall, they can't do anything to us even if they unite the two continents, Yu said rather confidently. She felt an unhideable excitement inside since she finally had the power to help Jian Chen now. She could share Jian Chen's burden with him, which was an extremely important matter to her. At this moment, with a twitch in his expression, Jian Chen suddenly gazed off into the distance. His gaze seemed to be able to penetrate the structure and see outside clearly while the light in his eyes flickered. Afterward, Tai Ta's face twitched as well. He suddenly stood up and powerful killing intent bubbled from inside him. He said with his deep, muffled voice, "Tai Ta, the people of the Changyang clan have come attacking." Jian Chen shook his head and a sliver of doubt flickered through his eyes. He said, "Tai Ta, please wait. It may not be like what you've imagined. Let's go have a look first." A great group of people flew toward the city. They did not seem to be travel very quickly, and there were several hundreds of them. The people in the city saw the spectacular scene in the air and the entire city was thrown into a great hubbub again. All of them had become stunned by this. All of them knew that anyone who could fly in the air was at least a Heaven Saint Master without any exception. There were only around a dozen in the entire kingdom, and a few of them had only recently appeared too. Every single one of them possessed a great status within the kingdom, able to stand on equal ground with the king. They rarely ever appeared in public. Yet now, they were seeing several hundred people flying in the air with a single glance. This pushed their shock to the utmost limit. The group of people directly flew to the Changyang clan before all stopping at the front entrance in the end. All the high-ranking members of the clan had gathered at the entrance. They all stood there silently and no one said anything. The gloomy Changyang Zhu Yunxiao stood at the very front. Changyang Zhu Yayin accompanied him by the side, and only after them was Jian Chen, Yu, Tai Ta, Changyang Ba, and the others. Of the several hundred people, the old man who stood at the very front was the most authoritative great elder of the Zhu branch, Changyang Zhu Xiao. Changyang Zhu Xiao seemed rather decadent right now. His face was filled with loneliness, helplessness, sorrow, and so on. Unknowingly, he seemed even older now. There were both the old and young in the group behind Changyang Zhu Xiao, varying in strength. They could be as powerful as saint rulers or as weak as a few young men and children who were not even Earth Saint Masters. They were carried by the people around them through the air. However, all of the older people were filled with loneliness. They were gloomy and their eyes were dull. "Great-grandfather, what are you?" Changyang Zhu Yunxiao suppressed his sorrow and asked in doubt. Sigh, Changyang Zhu Xiao deeply exhaled. Tears pooled in his weather-old eyes. He said, "Shower, I can no longer stay in the clan after what's happened. I've already left the clan now while the people behind me are all members of the Zhu branch who are willing to come with me. Most of the others stayed behind." Changyang Zhu Yunxiao violently jerked with that. He immediately clenched his fists before slowly letting go. He sighed at the sky and said, "Leaving is good too, leaving is good too." On that day, the Changyang clan increased by several hundred new members. However, all of them possessed great statuses. They were all members of the protector Changyang clan. Just the number of saint rulers exceeded 10. Even in the protector clan, they possessed a certain level of status. Most of the saint rulers had chosen to leave with Changyang Zhu Xiao, and only an extremely few number of people chose to stay behind. However, the group was not even 1/100th of the entire Zhu branch. Fortunately, the Changyang clan was extremely large after it had been modified, so even after increasing by several hundred members, it did not feel cramped. Changyang Ba made arrangements for the people appropriately while Changyang Zhu Xiao obviously became the person with the highest status. Jian Chen was touched by Changyang Zhu Xiao's actions, filling him with warmth. He now knew that he was not alone in the protector clan. At least the Zhu branch stood by his side. Changyang Zhu Xiao did not mention the saint's fruit at all. After greeting him, Jian Chen directly went to where Rui Jin, Hong Lian, and He Yu were staying. He Yu currently sat on his bed. His complexion was dark as the poison remained within him. The saint artifact had turned into a fist-sized golden tower as it slowly rotated above him, shining with a hazy light. Hong Lian and Rui Jin sat nearby in worry. They furrowed their brows while deep in thought. "Senior He Yu, how are you? Has the poison still not been purged?" Jian Chen's chest immediately tightened when he saw He Yu's condition. He Yu slowly opened his eyes and gently shook his head. He said, "The poison that got me is extremely rare on the continent. It's far stronger than the venom of the venomous beast ranked at number 1, and even the artifact spirit cannot help me. Apparently, this is a poison that belongs to the 9th class. The artifact spirit can only use Radiant Saint Force at class 8, so it is not enough to purge the poison." Chapter 1185, Poison of Heaven's End. What? Even the artifact spirit isn't enough to purge it? How can there be such an unbelievably powerful poison on the continent? Jian Chen was shocked by what He Yu had said. Disbelief flooded his face. "We've looked through all our inherited memories, and we have no records regarding He Yu's poison, which is why we're helpless against the poison as well," growled Rui Jin. He was extremely good friends with He Yu, so he felt rather horrible with He Yu in so much danger. The room fell silent for a while. None of them said anything as they all felt very heavy inside. The poison's potency had far exceeded everyone's imagination since Rui Jin and Hong Lian had no idea what it was, and even the Radiant Saint Force origin energy of the artifact spirit was not enough to nullify it. Hong Lian silently pondered and said, "I can vaguely remember that it was a few Saint Kings who poisoned He Yu. They were likely members of a protector clan." "A protector clan," Jian Chen softly mumbled. A gleam of light flashed through his eyes and he said, "I'll go invite great-grandfather Changyang Zhu Xiao. He's also a member of a protector clan, and he's knowledgeable. He may be able to help out." Jian Chen immediately went to invite Changyang Zhu Xiao. Without much longer, Jian Chen returned to where the three of them rested with a haggard Changyang Zhu Xiao. Changyang Zhu Xiao stared at He Yu for a while before he gradually frowned. He heavily said, "I know this poison. It's the special technique of the Heaven's Incense School, the poison of Heaven's End." "The poison of Heaven's End? How do we get rid of it?" Rui Jin paced over to Changyang Zhu Xiao's side and nervously asked. He was extremely worried. It's rumored that the poison can even claim the lives of Saint Emperors. "Other than finding the antidote, there is no other way to purge it," replied Changyang Zhu Xiao. "If that's the case, let's kill our way into the Heaven's Incense School right now." Powerful battle intent radiated from Rui Jin. He was willing to venture into the most dangerous place in order to save He Yu. "No, you can't act recklessly with this. I admire your strength very much, and outside the independent realm the protector clans are not your opponent unless they use their emperor armaments. However, that's not outside, but the lair of a protector clan. You definitely won't be able to get anything from attack them like that because even a Saint Emperor can't penetrate through the defenses. If it weren't for the fact that something so big happened between us and the Changyang clan, the Bright Moon Divine Hall would not have been able to get in so easily and then leave without any difficulty," explained Changyang Zhu Xiao. "Senior Rui Jin, we have to go to the Heaven's Incense School, but we need to make all preparations beforehand. After all, it's different from fighting against the people of the protector clans outside. It's their territory. They have the advantage," said Jian Chen. Although Rui Jin had gotten carried away, he was not a reckless person. He found it rather reasonable after listening to what Jian Chen and Changyang Zhu Xiao had said, so he responded, "All right, let's make the preparations as quickly as possible in the next few days. We need to set off as soon as possible. Hey, you can't last much longer." Changyang Zhu Xiao nodded, "Only you can go deal with this matter now. Although Yun Xiao and I have broken away from the Changyang clan, we still can't assist you openly." Changyang Zhu Xiao paused there. He stared at Jian Chen weirdly before continuing, "And you better quickly find a way to deal with your friend's problem. Once the news of the war god makes it out onto the continent, they will never let him go. At that time, it won't just be the Tianyuan continent. Probably even the experts of the beast god continent will come to hunt him down. After all, both the Tianyuan continent and beast god continent have a very deep enmity toward the war god from the ancient times. Changyang Qingyun has already sent a message to me. He wants me to use the saint's fruit to exchange for keeping Tai Ta's identity a secret, said Jian Chen. Changyang Zhu Xiao silently pondered that, and only after pondering did he speak. Looks like Changyang Qingyun won't be leaking the identity of the war god soon. We need to stop him in the meantime. I'll immediately send someone over to tell him that if he wants the saint's fruit, he better keep it a secret for the time being. That's enough to stop him temporarily, but it's not a long-term plan. Actually, I've already got a plan to keep Tai Ta safe. All he needs to do is hide in the Bright Moon Divine Hall when the time comes and he'll be completely fine. Even if Saint Emperors come personally, they won't be able to threaten him, replied Jian Chen. Now, there were only two places that were extremely safe for Tai Ta. One was Mercenary City while the other was the Bright Moon Divine Hall. However, Jian Chen knew even better that Tai Ta could only hide in Mercenary City before his identity had been leaked. Mercenary City would be a forbidden land once it was leaked. Even if the authoritative elders of the city agreed to shelter him, they would be looked down upon by the entire continent and lose their superior status. Jian Chen had never considered sending Tai Ta back to the 100 races since it would be like sending Tai Ta to his death in his eyes. He had never been to the wasteland continent and had no idea about the exact strength of the 100 races, but he knew they were not as powerful at the Tianyuan continent. They would not even be able to fend off the Tianyuan continent, let alone when the Tianyuan continent worked together with the beast god continent to attack them. All in all, the people of the two continents would never allow Tai Ta to successfully mature. Once Tai Ta's strength surpassed Saint Emperor, no one would be able to contend against him other than the young winged tiger god. Fairy Hao Yu, who created the Bright Moon Divine Hall, was the strongest Saint Emperor in her age. The records say that she had already arrived at the border of surpassing Saint Emperor, except she still failed in the end. On the other hand, her divine hall created from the special materials of the moon is very extraordinary where even Saint Emperors cannot destroy it, so sheltering him in the divine hall is indeed a good idea. However, when the time comes, you need to shelter the entire clan in it as well along with all the people you care about. Otherwise, I worry that they'll use these people to come threaten you, Changyang Zhu Xiao said rather sternly. Jian Chen's expression changed slightly. He heavily replied, the flame mercenaries will become rather troublesome. With their current scale, they've probably exceeded 1 million people in size, and there are many of them dispersed everywhere. Sheltering so many people in the Divine Hall will be very difficult. At the same time, Fairy Hao Yu is still alive. Her soul remains, and she possesses full control over the Divine Hall. Just in case she doesn't agree, it'll be, you might as well just let me seal up the Protector clan, Roy Jean suddenly piped up. What? You can seal up the Protector clan? Changyang Zhu Xiao was astounded. He stared at Roy Jean in disbelief. Roy Jean nodded, my dragon clan has many Paramount Legacy secret techniques. There's one that can seal up a region of space. The Protector clan may inhabit an independent space, but its connection to the outside world cannot change. I can use the secret technique to seal up the entrance, and they can't leave like that, nor can they leak any information. Fantastic. That way, we don't have to worry about Tai Ta's identity being leaked. Senior Roy Jean, when will we seal up the entrance of the Changyang clan? Jian Chen said rather impatiently. I'll need to visit Dragon's Island and retrieve some million-year dragon saliva from the necropolis. I'll use the essence of the herbs to complete the seal, but the seal can't last for too long. It might be a century, it might be a few decades, or it might even be just a few years before it's broken through by them, said Roy Jean. We'll drag it out if we can drag it out. Even if it's just a few years, it'll be enough. Jian Chen immediately became confident. He thought about Uncle Xiao who had entered seclusion with the Empyrean Demon Orb and the Grand Elder of Mercenary City, Tianjian, again. Now that Uncle Xiao had the Empyrean Demon Orb, reaching Saint Emperor was no problem. If Tianjian consumed the saint's fruit, reaching Saint Emperor would just be a matter of a few years. At this moment, an extremely pleasant melody rang out. It was very gentle and seemed to originate from everywhere. It made it impossible to find its origins. The moment the melody appeared, the people in the room all stopped talking. Other than Jian Chen, the four of their souls started to shake. Their souls were actually affected by the melody. An attack of the soul. What a great method of attack, to fuse such a powerful attack into the melody, Changyang Xiao heavily commented. Attacks of the soul were the hardest to guard against. The only method would be to forcefully resist it, which was why these attacks were the most terrifying. It's that girl. Why do I feel like her strength has increased a lot since we last met her in the City of God? Hey, you asked on the bed. His voice was filled with evident surprise. Her attacks of the soul are becoming more and more powerful, Rui Jin sternly added. At the same time, he was completely confused after much thought as well. He had no idea how her strength could undergo such great changes. Why has she come? Jian Chen gently murmured before bidding farewell to them. He left the room by himself. Chapter 1186. An unexpected guest. Not only did the people of the Changyang clan hear the zither melody of unknown origins, many people in the city heard it as well. However, they were completely unaffected. It was only a pleasant tune to them. The soul attack hidden within the sound seemed completely useless. Jian Chen flew into the sky where the melody continued to linger. However, he did not find anyone as far as he could see. He could not even find the origins of the melody. Jian Chen slowly closed his eyes with mixed feelings. He then rapidly expanded his presence in all directions. Very soon, he opened his eyes again. He looked to the east and gently sighed. With a sway, he vanished, shooting off into the distance with lightning-like speed. A few seconds later, Jian Chen left the city and arrived on a small hill 10 kilometers away. In front of him was a 2-meter-tall boulder, and a lady sat there with her legs crossed. A simple zither was placed across her knees as her hands slowly slid down the strings. She played a wonderful melody. Jian Chen became filled with extremely mixed emotions when he saw the familiar figure. He had not seen the heavenly enchantress since he had left Dragon Island, so today was the first time in years, yet Jian Chen felt like he had no idea how to confront her. Jian Chen stared at her silently before leaping down and landing masterfully on the rock. He stood a step away from the heavenly enchantress back and gently asked, "Why have you come?" The heavenly enchantress was veiled as usual. It was like she did not hear what Jian Chen asked. Her eyes continued to be fixated on the zither. She played with a great amount of focus, as if the zither was all that existed in the world to her. Jian Chen did not say anything more as he silently stood there. He gazed off into the distance, thinking about something. After some time, the melody finally came to an end. The heavenly enchantress gently placed her hands on the strings and continued to stare at the zither. She said, "I've come this time because I want something." The heavenly enchantress spoke very calmly, and her voice carried a hint of coldness, making her seem unapproachable. The light in Jian Chen's eyes wavered. He gently sighed and said, "I know already. You want the saint's fruit." "Correct, give me the saint's fruit," the heavenly enchantress said in a straightforward fashion. She did not show any politeness, as if she took asking Jian Chen for the saint's fruit as granted. "No, I can't give you the saint's fruit," Jian Chen gently shook his head. He had prepared the fruit for Tianjian, so he could not give it to anyone else. "You have to give me the saint's fruit. I must leave with it." The heavenly enchantress' eyes became rather sharp. "If you're looking for other things from me, I can give them to you. It's only the saint's fruit that I cannot give up." Jian Chen did not give in. The heavenly enchantress suddenly stood up. She stared at Jian Chen in a fixated manner as fury burned inside. She cried out, "With your talent, you don't need the fruit to become a saint emperor, so why are you keeping it? Give it to me." Without any reason or explanation, the heavenly enchantress boldly asked for the saint's fruit. As a father, Jian Shen should have been leaving the best for his child anyway. I've specially prepared the saint's fruit for Senior Tianjian. It's something I will be giving to him, and I won't be giving it to anyone else other than him, Jian Shen coldly replied. He had no idea why the heavenly enchantress wanted the saint's fruit, nor did he ask why. You're going to give the saint's fruit to the Grand Elder of Mercenary City, Senior Tianjian? The heavenly enchantress asked in disbelief. Correct. With Jian Shen's firm reply, the heavenly enchantress shook violently. She became rather dejected as sorrow filled her eyes. Why would it be like that? The heavenly enchantress softly murmured. Tianjian had once displayed great kindness to her, so she really could not find any reason to stop Jian Shen from gifting the fruit to Tianjian. However, Xiao urgently needed the saint's fruit to change his constitution, so the heavenly enchantress really was stuck in a tough dilemma at that moment. Jian Shen watched how she reacted in amazement. His impression of the heavenly enchantress was that she was cold and prideful. Ever since he had met her, she had always appeared to be icy. He had never seen her so dejected. Looks like the saint's fruit is extremely important to her, Jian Shen thought. Although he owed her, he could not give up the saint's fruit. Tears vaguely pooled in the heavenly enchantress' eyes. She had never felt so helpless before. Xiao was just too much of a cripple, and she really had no other methods to help him other than using the saint's fruit. Xiao would remain a normal person for his life if she could not obtain the fruit, and he would only be able to live a short life of 200 years. If she had really found Xiao somewhere, she would not care this much at all. However, he was her own flesh and blood. She was unwilling to watch him be reduced to a corpse in 200 years. Jian Shen felt very curious when he noticed the tears in the heavenly enchantress' eyes. He asked, I know you're not getting the saint's fruit for yourself. Can you tell me just why you need it? I might be able to come up with other ways to help you. I will be looking for you in the future. The heavenly enchantress coldly turned around. With a gentle breeze, she disappeared into the distance as a blur. She vanished in the blink of an eye. Jian Shen stood on the rock with his arms crossed. He pondered their interaction as he watched the heavenly enchantress leave. Afterward, with a slight movement, he turned into a blur and left as well, returning to the Changyang clan in Lore City. Rui Jin had already left by the time Jian Shen had returned to the clan. He had set off for Dragon Island for dragon saliva by himself. They had already discussed everything, planning to seal up the Changyang clan and then go to the Heaven's Incense School. Hong Lian had vanished as well, having entered the artifact space to prepare the formations needed. Whether it was sealing up the Changyang clan or going to the Heaven's Incense School, they were all important matters. They needed to prepare for everything since they would be directly confronting them in their lair. It was not going to be a battle outside. At noon, later that day, a space gate suddenly ripped open above the clan. Two old men in high spirits emerged with smiles. They radiated with powerful presences that engulfed the entire clan. They were two saint rulers. However, just as they emerged, their smiles hardened. More than 10 saint rulers had already appeared around them unknowingly. Every single one of them radiated with a much more powerful presence. Konger, it's Konger. A delighted voice rang out. Changyang Zhu Yayan rushed up in serendipity. The one of them was the ancestor of the Changyang clan, Changyang Zhu Yunkong, and the other was the caretaker of the clan, Chang Wuji. The faces of the saint rulers around them immediately became much more gentle when they heard it was Changyang Zhu Yayan. Some of them even began to smile amicably. So it's brother Yunkong, it's actually nephew Yunkong. All the saint rulers were members of the Zhu branch. Many of them were Changyang Zhu Yunkong's elders, so they all greeted him. Changyang Zhu Yunkong immediately became stunned when he recognized them with a single glance. Jian Shen came out to welcome them personally as well. However, what delighted him the most was that Uncle Chang had finally become a saint ruler and his lifespan had been increased by 2,000 years. There was far too much that could happen in 2,000 years. His constitution could be completely changed using heavenly resources, allowing him to undergo a rebirth. Coupled with excellent conditions, he could reach another level of cultivation. Jianshan could not say that he would become a Saint Emperor, but he was confident that reaching Saint King would not be a problem. They all conversed a little before leaving. Changyang Zhu Yunkong was obviously pulled away by Changyang Zhu Yeyun while Jianshan was taken by Uncle Chang to his room. Young master, it's really all because of these 3 beast furs that I've been able to reach Saint Ruler successfully. My talent is only a so-so, and I've reached the end of my life. If it weren't for the beast furs and help from Shaoling, I never would have been able to reach Saint Ruler. Young master, I really need to thank you. Uncle Chang gratefully thanked him before handing the 3 beast furs to Jianshan. It really was extremely difficult for him to break through to Saint Ruler this time. Jianshan accepted the beast furs. He frowned slightly and said rather unhappily, Uncle Chang, don't ever say things like that, or I'm going to be unhappy. Uncle Chang chuckled and did not delve on the matter. He said, going into seclusion this time, Master and Huang Tianba have improved very rapidly. With Xiao Ling's assistance, it's countless times easier for them to comprehend the mysteries of the world compared to the ordinary rate, and they don't need to worry about the lack of energy. Huang Tianba's already reached the 8th heavenly layer of Saint Ruler now. He wants to use the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to reach Saint King in a single stroke. Uncle Chang paused there. He stared deeply outside the building and asked with a deep voice, Young master, has something happened recently? Why have so many seniors of the Zhu branch come to the clan? Uncle Chang was a Saint Ruler now as well. He was strong enough to take responsibility and manage things, so Jianshan did not hide the situation from him. He told him what had happened in the Protector clan, which utterly stunned him. At this moment, a guard reported outside, Young master, caretaker, the old madam has invited the 2 of you to the discussion hall. The old madam referred to by the guard was obviously Changyang Zhu Yeyun. When Jianshan and Uncle Chang arrived in the hall, they just happened to hear Changyang Zhu Yunkong roar out, it's too far. They've gone too far. They really don't know shame if they can do things like this. Father, mother, from today on, let's completely break free from the Protector clan. In the future, the Protector Changyang clan has nothing to do with our Changyang clan of Lore City. Jianshan knew that Changyang Zhu Yunkong had learned of the matter as well. Changyang Qin Yun and the others had indeed gone overboard with what had happened in regards to the saint's fruit this time. Otherwise, this many seniors of the Zhu branch would not have followed Changyang Zhu Xiao away. Chapter 1187, The Special Inn of Lore City Jianshan, Chang Wuji, Changyang Zhu Yunxiao, Changyang Zhu Yunkong, Changyang Zhu Yeyun, Changyang Zhu Xiao, and the saint rulers from the Protector clan all gathered together. They focused on what had happened in the clan and their future development plans. Changyang Zhu Yunkong was the most furious of them all. He spoke with a righteous tone as he suggested to completely break free from the Protector clan and make the Changyang clan of Lore City independent, without any connections to the Protector clan. The exodus of Changyang Zhu Zhao's clansmen of the Zhu branch coming to Lore City was already an explanation for everything. All that they lacked was a formal announcement. The atmosphere in the hall became heavy. Changyang Zhu Xiao and the others all became extremely heavy-hearted as well. None of them said anything. A while later, Changyang Zhu Xiao finally made up his mind. He clenched his teeth. From now on, I announce that I, Changyang Zhu Xiao, will be leaving the Protector Changyang clan, and I will no longer have any connection with them. I also announce that I, Changyang Zhu Yunxiao, will be leaving the Protector Changyang clan. Changyang Zhu Yunxiao was the second person to declare his stance. I, Changyang Zhu Yeyun, will also be leaving the Protector Changyang clan. All the people of the Zhu branch announced their departure from the Changyang clan. They had already been prepared for this declaration since they had followed Changyang Zhu Xiao to Lore City. The people who had left the Changyang clan were only a small portion of the Zhu branch. Many more people chose to stay behind, but the people who came were the most powerful force of the Zhu branch. Jianshan first visited his parents after the meeting. He spoke a little with them before visiting his 3 aunts. His first aunt, Ling Long, and his second aunt, Yu Fengyan, were in rather bad mental states. They had been separated from their children for many years and had not heard a single thing from them, so they missed their children very much. Yu Fengyan was better. Although she had not seen her daughter in many years, she was slightly relieved that her daughter was at least the holy maiden of a powerful organization. However, Ling Long was in a permanent state of alarm. What the pavilion master of the Pure Heart Pavilion had said to her before was deeply embedded in her head. Although Changyang, who had become a disciple of the Pure Heart Pavilion and was heavily favored by the pavilion master, she did not feel happy at all. She feared that Changyang who would abandon his family and friends, thus forgetting about her as his mother. Jian Chen's third aunt Bai Yushuang was extremely happy in recent years. With Jian Chen's help, her son's constitution had been modified, so even though he could not be compared to Jian Chen, his cultivation speed had still increased. He had become an Earth Saint Master just half a month ago. At the same time, Changyang held his marriage several years ago. His wife was a princess of the kingdom, and the king himself had personally mentioned the engagement. Afterward, Jian Chen left the Changyang clan with Yu Yu. They strolled around the city. Jian Chen, where are we going now? Yu Yu clung onto Jian Chen's arm as she looked at him in affection. Her face was filled with her gentle nature. You will find out very soon, Jian Chen smiled. Very soon, the two of them arrived in the center of the city, which was also the busiest area. A 4-story tall and stood right in front of them. It was extremely luxurious and extravagant. To outsiders, it definitely seemed like an inn that only rich people could enter, but it was the exact opponent. Not only were there rich merchants and young masters of influential families in there were also noisy mercenaries. Yu Yu, let's go in. It's been so long, so it's about time for me to visit Auntie. Jian Chen gently spoke before entering the place with Yu Yu. Even though it was not meal time, there were many people in the inn. The first floor was almost full with a great roaring hubbub of thunderous noise. It was deafening. Clearly, there were divisions regarding the prices of the inn. Most of the first floor was filled with mercenaries who fought and killed outside. They naturally radiated with bold presences. Only a few merchants ate on that floor as well. The wealthy merchants and scions of great clans had all gone to the second floor. They were not present on the first. An inn was a place where conflicts occurred the most. Frequently, a few vile-tempered mercenaries would get drunk off of liquor and lose themselves, fighting in the inn and leading to bloodshed in the end. When Jian Chen and Yu Yu entered the inn, two groups of mercenaries began arguing. Fucking hell, can you keep it down? You're so noisy that it's getting in the way of my drinking. A burly mercenary with fire-red hair furiously slammed the jug of liquor in his hand onto the table. He roared at some mercenaries who were talking loudly. The hubbub in the inn immediately disappeared. Everyone focused their attention on the red-haired mercenary. The table which he had yelled out fell silent as well. There were a total of 4 people there, and every single one of them were flushed from drinking. However, they all radiated with especially bold presences. This was something that only people who had experienced a slaughter would possess. Clearly, the 4 of them had gone through a trial of blood before. They were ferocious people who were frequently engaged in brutal battles. Bang! One of the 4 people heavily slammed the table and a powerful force turned it into pieces. He glared at the mercenary and coldly said, "How dare you speak to us Baoxiong brothers like that? Do you find your lifespan too long? We cannot forgive this person for speaking to us like that. Let's take his life as an apology," one of the 4 people called out. His temperament was unnecessarily volatile as well. He had already condensed his saint weapon, which was a huge axe. The red-haired mercenary snickered. "I really wonder if you know how to spell death for speaking to me like that." As he said that, he clenched his hand and vast amounts of fire-attributed saint force immediately gushed out, quickly condensing into a huge, fire-red sword. Earth Saint Master. And he can actually control fire-attributed saint force, the element with the greatest offensive capabilities of the 6. A few surprised mutters immediately appeared in the inn. Earth Saint Masters were rather rare in Lore City. The mercenary and the 4 brothers brandished their weapons. They were already close to fighting. At this moment, a middle-aged man who seemed to be a merchant stepped forward. He clasped his hands and gave them a smile. You must not be people of the Jessen Kingdom, right? I am a Fang Yanhua, and I'd like to advise you that you've chosen the wrong place to fight. You must never cause trouble in this inn, or even Heaven's Saint Masters will face disaster. Both parties' expressions changed when they heard that. Heaven's Saint Masters were peak-level experts in their eyes. There were only around 10 of these powerful experts even with the entire kingdom in perspective. Of course, that was ignoring the hidden power of the Changyang clan. The red-haired mercenary calmed down very quickly after being surprised. He did not believe what the local had said and laughed. Even Heaven's Saint Masters will face disaster? What, is this inn protected by a saint ruler? The merchant expected the mercenary to respond like that. He smiled. That may not be the exact truth, but it's basically like that. This inn is a place protected by the Changyang clan. The Changyang clan has saint rulers. Do you think I'll believe that a mere inn will receive the protection of the great Changyang clan? Do you think I'm as easy to trick as a kid? One of the 4 brothers sneered. They did not believe what the merchant had said. The merchant glanced at them in pity before sitting down again. He no longer paid any attention to them. The temperature in the inn rapidly climbed. The huge sword in the red-haired mercenary's hand was coated in a layer of red light, and he stabbed at the 4 brothers. The 4 brothers did not hold back either. They all drew their saint weapons, and they were all Earth Saint Masters as well. It was just that each one of them was not as powerful as the red-haired mercenary alone, so they needed to work together. At this moment, a group of people in black clothes quietly made their way in. There was a total of 12 of them, and all of them possessed neutral expressions. The leading middle-aged man was a Heaven Saint Master. Many people in the hall immediately began to look at them in envy and admiration. They were a disciplinary squad of the Changyang clan, and even their weakest member was an Earth Saint Master. The simple, black clothing had become a representation of strength, status, and glory in the eyes of the people in the inn. Take away all those who dare to make trouble here. The leading man coldly stared at the 4 brothers and the red-haired mercenary. Just his gaze was enough to make the 5 aggressive mercenaries shiver inside. All their intent to battle vanished. A Heaven Saint Master. The thought of death crossed their heads. They had never thought that they would actually provoke such a powerful expert and that it would happen so quickly. Was the inn really protected by the Changyang clan? They even lost the courage to resist in front of a Heaven Saint Master. All 5 of them were taken away by the disciplinary squad. Everyone please continue to enjoy your meals. I am the captain of this squad, Jiang Cheng. Please forgive me if I have disturbed you. Jiang Cheng did not act haughtily like a Heaven Saint Master. He seemed like any other person. This was not because he had no pride, but he would only show his pride outside. In the inn, he needed to lower himself even with his identity because he knew very well just how close the owner was with the Changyang clan. He was not even willing to offend the guests of the inn. At this moment, Jiang Cheng's face suddenly hardened. He stared blankly at Jian Shen and Yu Yu, who were about to go to the 2nd floor. His face became filled with disbelief, which was soon replaced by excitement and joy along with unhideable respect and admiration. Jiang Cheng quickly walked over and dropped to one knee in front of everyone. He said with a trembling voice, I greet the young master and your majesty. Jian Shen smiled as he waved his hand. An invisible force pulled Jiang Cheng from the ground and he said, a 5th cycle Heaven Saint Master, not bad. Jiang Cheng, guard this inn well. You can become a saint ruler within 100 years. Jiang Cheng became so happy that he was unable to express himself. He emotionally said, don't worry, young master. I will use my life to guard this inn. As long as my life is intact, no one will be able to cause trouble here. Jian Shen nodded before proceeding to the 2nd floor of the inn. Only after a while did a commotion erupt on the 1st floor. Young master? Is that young man the young master of the Changyang clan? He's an imperial protector of our kingdom and a prodigy of the continent. He's become a saint ruler at such a young age, that's probably not all to it. I heard that the young master has become a saint king now. I never thought that I'd see the elusive young master of the Changyang clan. All the people in the inn were extremely excited. The young master of the Changyang clan was a legend across the continent. Although most people knew his name, there were very few who had actually seen him in person. Chapter 1188, A Gift of the Saint's Fruit. Jian Chen and Yu Yu made their way to the top floor of the inn. The decor there was extremely different and did not match the extravagant building. The inn was the one owned by Sans and his mother. Protected by the Changyang clan, it had turned into the most famous inns in the entire city from its initial form. There was no one who did not know where it was in the city, and its name had even rang through the kingdom. However, Sans and his mother only wanted to live a simple life. They did not possess any wild ambitions, or their inn would be much more than it already was with the influence of the Changyang clan. The top floor of the inn was where Sans and his mother stayed. Jian Chen only saw the auntie and not Sans. Only after asking did he learn that Sans had joined the Flame Mercenaries. The auntie was an ordinary person and could not cultivate. She was in her early 50s, but she already seemed much older. Jian Chen and Yu Yu talked with her for a while. He then asked, "Auntie, I have methods to change your constitution and let you undergo a rebirth. You will be able to cultivate just like us, and as long as you reach Earth Saint Master, your lifespan will greatly increase." Kendall had saved Jian Chen's life before. Since he was no longer around, Jian Chen planned on returning the kindness to her and Sans. As a result, Jian Chen was considerate down to the tiniest detail when dealing with the two of them. If other people had heard what Jian Chen had said, they would definitely be ravished with joy. On the continent that advocated power, there was no one who did not wish to become powerful, as power represented status, glory, and wealth. However, she was not moved at all. What Jian Chen said possessed no attraction to her. She shook her head and said, "I thank you for your kindness, but I just want to be an ordinary person and live a stable life. I want to wait for death so I can meet Kendall in the other world. He's far too lonely there. I want to go and accompany him." Sorrow filled her eyes and tears seemed to pool in them. Jian Chen fell silent. He knew that she had already learned about what happened to Kendall. Although he had always hid it, the truth could not be hidden. Coupled with the fact that Sans had already joined the Flame Mercenaries, the news of Kendall's death was obviously impossible to hide. Yu Yu went up and held her hands. She comforted, "Auntie, don't be so sad. Uncle may have left already, but you at least have Sans to accompany you in this world. You need to put yourself together and watch Sans mature properly." Jian Chen and Yu Yu comforted her. They said a lot to her, staying there for 4 whole hours before leaving. Jian Chen was very silent on the way back. He worried very much about her inside while Yu Yu obediently followed beside him. She affectionately clung to his arm, accompanying him in silence. Her eyes were filled with her gentle nature. Jian Chen sighed gently upon returning to the clan. He wanted to change her fate, but she chose to live a simple life, which filled him with helplessness. "Since Auntie has made the decision herself, we should support her silently," Jian Chen softly decided. Fighters had their world, and mortals had their happiness. He understood it all now. Thinking back to the times when he had ventured through wind and rain, a simple life would have been quite happy actually. Yu Yu arrived beside him and gently hugged him. She stared at Jian Chen affectionately and gently said, "Jian Chen, there are many ordinary people who are much happier than us. If you're willing, I want to live an ordinary person's life with you. The world of fighters is filled with unavoidable fights and battles to the death. It really is very tiring." Jian Chen gently placed his arm around her thin waist as the fragrance from her hair hit his nose. He said, "Yue, once we get through all the struggles of the Tianyuan continent, we'll find a beautiful, desolate place to settle down like hermits. We won't ever bother with the matters of the continent after that, okay?" Yu Yu raised her head to look at Jian Chen in surprise and delight. Anticipation filled her face and she firmly nodded, "I do hope that day can come sooner." Jian Chen's lips perked up as he smiled. He lowered his head to kiss her forehead before he said, "But we need to have enough strength to deal with the situation in front of us in order to live a life like that. I'll visit Mercenary City immediately. I'll leave the safety of the clan to you." Yu immediately became gloomy when she heard that Jian Chen would be leaving again. She stared at him, unwilling to part with him, and said, "I hope you come back soon." Jian Chen nodded in agreement before finding Changyang Zhu Yunxiao. He asked him to create a space gate to Mercenary City. Jian Chen was warmly welcomed by Mercenary City, personally received by an elder. He expressed that he had come to see Senior Tianjian, and the elder directly brought him to Tianjian's floating divine hall without saying a second word and sent up a message. It was in the same majestic hall where Jian Chen met with the gray-haired Tianjian. Even though he remained with an appearance of a middle-aged man, his vitality reduced with each coming day. He did not have much time left. Tianjian looked at Jian Chen in delight. When he had first met him, Jian Chen was only an Earth Saint Master. After a few decades, he had completely transformed. He had grown to his current greatness at an unbelievable rate. On the Tianyuan continent, his talent was unprecedented. Jian Chen and Tianjian casually conversed. Then, Jian Chen pulled out a perfectly sealed embroidered box from his space ring. He said, "Senior Tianjian, I've caused a disturbance this time to give you this." Under the control of Jian Chen's mind, the box slowly flew toward Tianjian. A sliver of curiosity appeared on Tianjian's face. He opened the box and found a fist-sized fruit sitting quietly in there. It seemed very simple, but through his sharp senses, he could clearly feel an extremely great energy and the extremely profound truths of the world hidden within. The saint's fruit. Tianjian's face immediately and drastically changed. Even with his mental fortitude, he struggled to remain calm after seeing the fruit. He immediately closed the lid after crying out, afraid that the powers would leak away. The fruit had ripened, but it had returned to its original form. "Jian Chen, the saint's fruit is far too valuable, and you've risked your life to obtain it. You better take it back and use it on someone else. This bag of bones does not have much time anymore. If I consume it, it would be wasteful." Tianjian returned the fruit to Jian Chen without any reluctance. "Senior, I'll be honest. I ventured into the death nest specifically to gift the fruit to you, so it already belongs to you. Please accept it," Jian Chen sincerely replied. He paused before continuing, "Now that Tai Ta's identity has been leaked, I'm afraid that he will become a public enemy of the continent soon. I hope that after you become a Saint Emperor, you can help Tai Ta out." Tianjian became stern. He heavily said, "Tai Ta's identity is indeed a great matter. Probably both the Beast God continent and the Tianyuan continent will have experts who want to deal with him. It's just fortunate that there aren't many Saint Emperors now. Jian Chen, as long as Tai Ta guarantees that he will not lead the 100 races to invade the Tianyuan continent in the future, I will stand with him. Otherwise, I won't be helping him even if you give me the fruit. Don't worry, Senior. If Tai Ta dares to do something like that in the future, would be the first one to resent him. At that time, I will stand with the Tianyuan continent. I swear to protect the lands of us humans," Jian Chen sternly swore. Actually, he had no idea just how Tai Ta would turn out in the future. However, he was his friend right now at the very least, one of his best friends. Tianjian hesitated before finally accepting the fruit. He said, "Once I become a Saint Emperor, I'll step down as Grand Elder and leave Mercenary City. Otherwise, I'll just cause problems for the city. Although the city is powerful and is unshakable with its deep heritage, I can't let such a holy place become a region that people will end up drooling over." Jian Chen had fulfilled his intentions for coming to the city after giving away the fruit. He immediately left the floating divine hall. Tianjian stood in the divine hall as he watched Jian Chen leave. Only after quite a while did he look away. He stared blankly at the box in his hand as his heart was strewn with many emotions. A long while later, Tianjian finally sighed. He shook his head rather helplessly and said, I never thought that Jian Chen would risk his life and obtain the saint's fruit after so many difficulties to just give it to me. Jian Chen left the miniature world of Mercenary City through a space gate and returned to the city. Brother, have you finished with your stuff? Can you play with me now? Xiao Ling's voice rang through Jian Chen's head. Afterward, her illusionary figure appeared, drifting around in front of him. The street was packed with people, but no one else could see her other than Jian Chen. Jian Chen's gaze became gentle. He treated Xiao Ling as his own sister, and he laughed, Xiao Ling, take me to the underground space first. I might as well visit my old friends. Xiao Ling happily agreed. Jian Chen immediately felt an invisible but irresistibly powerful force surround him. Afterward, the space in front of him blackened. He had already vanished from the street, which did not grab anyone's attention. Xiao Ling floated around Jian Chen in the underground space. She was extremely happy and she proudly said, Big brother, with my assistance, your friend's strength has increased very quickly. You can't forget what I've done. Xiao Ling looked around and a cunning light flashed through his eyes. She made her way in front of Jian Chen for mysterious reasons and mischievously said, Big brother, I want a reward. I've helped you so much, so you have to reward me. You're tuning into the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.